Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spawncast episode 362. We're missing Evan tonight. He'll be back next weekend. He's at like a LAN party, so we'll miss him. We'll be back next weekend, and then we'll deal with Sean at some point. He's off the podcast, so that's just the way it goes. MVG came in strong actually a minute ago. I was like, he's out. Get him out of here.
Which sucks, man, because I actually, despite everything that happened, I like him being here, so.
Get him out of here. He's in the chat now. Sean,
look, he's in
we
the
wrote
chat.
up a restraining order for a reason, Sean.
He's in the chat, but he won't come on the cast. I see how it is. That's fine, buddy. I'll take care of it. I got this. No worries.
People think he got kicked off because he was getting like canceled or I don't know, something was happening to him on Twitter. People thought he got kicked off because of that. It's like, no, it's WrestleMania weekend. Sean's not showing up. I'm sorry, Sean's not showing up on WrestleMania weekend.
Because he doctored a tweet.
Yeah. That was so funny. He got community noted. That was crazy.
I had to point that out. I was like, yo, Sean, community noted is wild.
That was funny though. He sent us just like, yeah, community noted.
That was great.
That was achievement unlock right there, man.
Yeah.
It's done. We'll see when Sean returns, but WrestleMania weekend. I mean, he said he was in his underwear in his bed at 1 in the afternoon. So I don't know if he's gonna show up on a podcast. So.
But his grandpa came over.
Yes. So we'll see him. We'll see him at some point, I'm sure. But again, I got some people here. We can talk about some games tonight. I know WrestleMania is going on, so hey, if you're here, even though WrestleMania is going on, appreciate it. Shout out to you. It's I'm sure it's very exciting right now based on what's happening online, all the trending stuff. So people seem to be having a good time with it. And I know it's 2 nights, so it's tonight and then it's also tomorrow night. So we should have just done. That's what we should have done a completely out of context WrestleMania watch along, and we all attempt to like decipher what's happening while it's going on there, but maybe next year. Well, Josie just explained it to us. She's the only one who can watch it. She has to explain it to us while we listen.
Yeah.
Let's go around here. We're gonna start with MVG.
Hello.
Good to have MVG here. Had a good conversation actually yesterday about Rebirth, which is gonna be going up soon. We had 2 videos. We had one non-spoiler and one full-on spoiler. Talk about the ending, everything. And I had to search for a bit, actually, to find somebody who also beat Rebirth. Although MVG beat it a lot faster than I did, so. But it was a good conversation. It'll be up on the network here pretty soon. But good to have MVG here. Got some emulation stuff in the news here, MVG. So I'm curious your take on that. And a few other things. We also have Mystic Ryan. Ryan's here.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Your cat's up on the table.
Yeah, she often likes to explore and run the place.
Good to have Ryan here. Did a video on it was like a PlayStation bus.
That was
I saw a thumbnail.
that was my last minute I need to do something this week kind of thing because I'm still working on 2 things that are taking way too long.
Okay. Well, I mean, that was interesting. I hadn't seen that. I guess it went up and someone was trying to sell it for way too much money. So
yeah, it was just me being silly.
I mean, the thing looked kind of gross, so I don't know if I'd spend that much money on it. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I remember those buses going around when they were really doing it to where you could try the things out on the bus.
Yeah.
But that's it. Hey, if you want it, you could get it, drop it in your backyard. There you go. We also have Josie with us tonight.
Yep. Happy to be here. Yes.
Good to have Josie here. And then, of course, we have OJ holding up the pre-show.
Oh, good to be here.
Good to have OJ here. So, like I said, we have a bunch of stuff to go over tonight. There is rumors around a PlayStation showcase. I don't think it's going to shock anyone, but I did want to touch on that. Of course, with Ryan here as well, who can maybe give us some insight as to what we should be expecting with that one. We also had Xbox. Xbox just constantly getting beaten down, I swear. Xbox, some controversy over their upcoming release, but I do have to ask the question, how big of a deal is it really? Apple approving emulators on the iOS store, which at first it didn't read like a big deal, but I really thought about it. That is kind of a big deal. And then this is the week where the 3DS and the Wii U get shut down, and there's some really weird stuff happening this week from the Wii U, and I almost feel like people are misremembering exactly what that time period was, but that tweet. We'll get to that one. I must have been in some other timeline.
Tweets, not just one tweets. People just making stuff up.
I don't know. Murrah must have gotten a hold of that timeline. We'll go over that one as well. But of course, I do want to remind everyone we do have the Spawncast Network. We're posting up we'll have our Rebirth discussion here pretty soon. Josie, you had Game & Talk last week.
Yes, it was great. Yes.
How'd that go anyway? Can you fill me in on that?
Yeah, we just talked about our top 20 retro games. We all collectively made a list together because there's not a lot going on in Nintendo right now. So that was super cool. And
Little homie wants to be on the cast.
no.
We can replace him with Sean. What do you
I was going to say that's a good replacement for Sean.
Better replace. He's smarter than him. I can tell you that right now. I'm joking. Sean, love you. Bulls beat the Knicks.
Game & Talk was great. We launched memberships. You should check it out. It's very fun.
Thank you, Josie.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do want to give shout-outs to some of the producers over on the network. We have Trent A., William Hogue, The Game Orb, Mr. Joby, Joshua Butts, and of course John O. So shout out to them. You can check that out over on SpawnCastNetwork.com, patreon.com/SpawnCast. So let me move over real quick to this because this one is pretty, I think, straightforward. I don't think it's shocking to anyone, but coming from Jeff Grubb mentioning that the PlayStation Showcase is, it is understanding there's at least a PlayStation event in May. And that would coincide with what they did last year, where they had things like Concord, Fair Games, I believe, announced there. But they would have an event in May. I'm thinking probably the second half of May, so we're probably 6 weeks away from it. But is that at all surprising to you, Ryan?
No, not even a little bit.
Okay. I saw that news, and I was like, yeah, I feel like we've kind of been talking about Sony as if they were going to have an event in May this whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's plenty of things that they need to show. And by need, I mean, if they're planning on shipping Concord this year, then if they don't show a trailer in May, then I would assume that game's either not coming or delayed. Grubb mentioned an Astrobot game. I was expecting that late last year, so it sounds like that might be the sort of smaller scale game that will ship by the end of this year, or maybe Q1 25, because that still falls under that spectrum of we're not shipping major sequels until the next fiscal year, which would run to the end of March 2025. But something like Astro, they consider in their eyes smaller, even though it's an existing IP. So there could be that, and that's still also open enough to include second-party things like Silent Hill 2 needs to get a release date, considering that last State of Play only had a combat trailer and still no release date, which seemed very bizarre at the time. But you got to figure that's going to get a release date, and then maybe a few other, I feel like everything else in terms of Sony's first party could be a sort of wild card as to if they're going to show a teaser or a trailer, but that could all be, slated for the back half of 2025 and beyond.
It seemed like there was some weird stuff going on. I think you even kind of looked at that MG a little sideways. The talk between, it was like the developers for Silent Hill and then Konami. It seemed like they were a bit at odds there, which is weird. They're like, the trailer that was put together did not show the game well, which is weird. But we're expecting Silent Hill out this year.
Yeah, I think so.
Like that
seems like it's coming, and hopefully we'll have a better show.
Yeah, they just kind of I don't know. It was kind of weird when they were showing it there. But even Bloober Team, there's still some concerns. I guess maybe some doubts even around them for if they can really pull off. I mean, a game that people love. Like Silent Hill. Whenever I see anyone talk about PS2 back in the day, I do hear Silent Hill 2 come up in the conversation. So it's obviously one that people remember fondly. So if they mess it up, it's not going to be good. It's not.
I mean, it already kind of, I don't want to pass judgment on something that we haven't played or seen yet, but like the second the first trailer came out, like a lot of the Silent Hill community was already like, no, like I'm out.
They don't want to remake even? They don't even want to touch.
And I mean, maybe there's something to be said about revitalizing the combat, but like the certain ambiance and appearance of the characters and the setting, and
the thing
right
is,
away,
though,
everyone kind of checked out immediately.
The thing is, though, Silent Hill was never renowned for its combat. It's pretty clunky. The original game is like you got this stick and you just kind of whack it, right, until you get some better upgrades. Like, I don't feel like the combat is really the focal point of what Silent Hill is. And while I do agree that the combat didn't show very well in those initial trailers that we saw, I think people are really kind of hung up on the combat stuff versus just a good remake of the original story. So, look, I'm not saying it's going to be good or it's going to be bad. I do think it needs to have a better presentation to kind of impress people a little more than the last showing. But I don't know, man. Like, I feel like Silent Hill was never really about the combat, and people are so hung up on why it didn't look very good this time around.
You know, I was also thinking, okay, so Silent Hill should be there, and it also got a rating. We're pretty much expecting that release date to show up then in May. Metal Gear, that's supposed to also come out this year. So, I mean, I know that's multi-platform, but like Sony seems to be kind of putting it like with their PlayStation alongside it, like Microsoft's trying as well with their Xbox. But that'll be a big one, even that showcase or state of play. But you mentioned Concord. Here's the thing with that, Ryan. You know, I know Helldivers 2 kind of caught Sony by like surprise a bit with how successful it's been. The one issue or concern I would have had for Sony with all these live service initiatives is if they have one that really takes off, and then you start pushing more of them out the door, it does kind of have that feeling of trying to pull the player in a bunch of different directions. I almost wonder if Concord could wait a little longer, just because Helldivers 2 just the content keeps coming out for it too. It's very consistent right now.
I don't know. I wouldn't put too much weight in that, if only because they're pretty diversified in the kinds of live service games that we're expecting out of them. Concord's going to be a first-person sci-fi shooter, which at least for PlayStation, that's a little bit interesting in that we haven't had a traditional first-party FPS sci-fi game since Killzone Shadowfall on PS4 back in 2013. So, and Sony historically just doesn't really care about that sort of thing. They'll line things up right next to each other, even if there is this, idea that maybe there's like a cannibalization, a mind share being stolen away. They just they'll ship things right near each other. Like 2020, we had Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2 back to back. Helldivers 2 shipped with foam stars for PS Plus Essential, and some people, thought that was like kind of an odd decision at the time. But they just, if it's ready, they put it out there. So if Concord's ready, I think they'll put it out.
Anyone still playing foam stars?
No,
You just remind me that it exists.
Played the tutorial in one match, and that was it.
Yeah, that's about how it was for me. It's like, I think I'm good.
I was about to say, the gameplay was just not there.
I thought people liked the beta.
No,
I didn't play the beta. Okay, so I didn't play the beta.
I don't even know what you do in that game, man. Like, none of it makes any sense.
I played the beta, and there was certain people that were trying to pull east with it on Twitter and stuff, and I think that's where where you got some putting in clips and stuff like that. But then when you actually play the game yourself, it doesn't even make sense when you play it. It's hard to see. People were clipping things and cutting together certain trailers, trying to work for Square Enix when it comes down to it or something. I don't know, but yeah, these foam stars. I mean, I don't think anybody cares really, right?
I just forgot about it already.
I feel like I don't remember too well, but you don't get damaged if you get hit, if you're in the other player's foam, right? That was a weird...
No,
you just move slower.
You move way slower, and I think you're more susceptible to damage, too.
Okay, but you have to be directly shot. I feel like they just missed the point of Splatoon.
They have to cover you in foam, and then when you're covered, the person has to roll in and hit you with their surfboard or whatever.
Right.
And you fly to the wall and you explode. That's how you basically knock someone out.
So you have to really put yourself in danger to get kills, right? You have to go over them, run right into them, which was just.
I just didn't like the reload. I didn't like the reloading in the game. That was really my big hang up because it just paused the action.
Well, it was a hero. It's the hero shooter thing, right? It's tied to weapons are tied to a certain character, so you can't customize and mix and match in that type of way. I also think people got pissed off with the microtransactions, the whole. Even though it was all optional, there's plenty of stuff that you can get in the game. There was crazy microtransactions.
Some more expensive, yeah.
Yeah. People were like, what the hell's that?
Ryan, you mentioned Astrobot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not VR, right? It's going to be its own 3D platformer.
I would assume it might be a 2D and VR thing.
Oh man.
Well, that's the best way to do it. Something for PSVR owners. You don't want to lock it to PSVR. I mean,
no.
And I think it would be great to have for Sony to test the field with a more premium Astrobot game that everyone can play, since it really hasn't had the chance to do that. Free to play on PS5 for every console shipped, which gave the IP so much exposure.
Right.
Initially, it was part of the PlayStation camera on PS4 launch day, which nobody got the chance to play. Then Rescue Mission for PSVR, nobody had the chance to play. So having a priced Astrobot game, I'm actually pretty excited for that idea. I would like to see how well it does.
Team Asobi is very talented. If you play that on the PS5, it looked really clean. It took advantage of all the extra features for the PS5 and the DualSense, showed it off nicely, and it was fun.
I think it's one of the best free pack-ins for a game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. You could make the case that it's one of the better games on the PS5 in terms of exclusives for the console. You could make that case, but obviously the scope was limited for that game. They had an idea to show off the PS5 with it, and that's kind of what they did. They actually put some money behind it and tried to do a big 3D platformer. I think that could be really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
It would add some diversity, I would say, to their lineup as well, since people look at it as a third-person, over-the-shoulder action narrative experience with the PS5. Astrobot just completely stands out from that. So I would like that. That to me would be a big title to reveal there, even coming out this year. So if they could have that, Concord, Silent Hill, some third-party stuff, I think they'd actually be able to make it through 2024 pretty well.
Do you think Astrobot has the potential to be like the PlayStation mascot, sort of?
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, I kind of do, because it has the PlayStation colors now, right? It's the PS5 color scheme for Astro appeals to a wide audience.
There's still not really a super defined PlayStation mascot. There really never has been. There's some that are up top, that being Aloy or Kratos or Ratchet, but there's always been so many names associated with the brand. But it does seem like they're trying to make Astro something, which I'm not pushing back. I like them.
I always felt, at least it's been Kratos. That's just, and I know there's been, but Kratos has always been the person that I associate with PlayStation for the past 20 years. That's just kind of how I feel about when I think of it. Kratos is he's the guy. He's the guy, right? So.
That's a good question when you think of what if we think of PlayStation, what's the character that would come to mind as its mascot? And I guess for me it would either be Ratchet or be Kratos.
That's what I'm saying though. If you survey 100 people, you're probably going to get people saying Mario for Nintendo, Halo for Xbox, and PlayStation's probably going to be a different split. Some might be really high like Kratos, but I imagine PlayStation had a lot of different names show up to different people.
Yeah.
You think people start writing down Crash Bandicoot?
Yeah, it could happen for sure.
Probably. I mean, I know I did before. Like, I think at one point I would have said, yeah, Crash Bandicoot, but that was in like, the PS1.
PS1 generation.
Yeah, I would have said, yeah, Crash Bandicoot, hands down. You know, but not anymore. But for me, it's like Kratos because it's like God of War is like it's like the combination of everybody knows who Kratos is, right? Like when you see Kratos, you're like, oh yeah, that's Kratos. And then like the sales too. It's like the popularity of Kratos is at an all-time high, right? Like between God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, like the sales blew up way better than the PS2 days and the PS3 days.
What about Cloud?
Like Final Fantasy.
Cloud can't. That would be like a PS1 thing to me, right? Like could be at least.
But
that would be like
Rebirth and Remake, man. It's not. You can't play anywhere else.
But those are probably gonna come. Those are PC too. So I don't know. I just don't see it that
But
way.
it's an association thing.
Yeah, and Cloud's been on other platforms too. Like Cloud's on other platforms a lot.
It doesn't mean shit because that's what MVG's saying. It's such a PlayStation staple. That's why Sony paid boatloads of money to keep this game exclusive to their platform.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess you could look at Cloud and kind of see Sony's logo next to him at times. Yeah.
I mean, Sony never owned a Crash, but a lot of people 20 years ago would say Crash.
Yeah, absolutely. I just kind of, like I said, with the exclusivity thing. But it's just hard for me also with that because it's like, you know, PlayStation All-Stars and like, he's not in the game. So it's like, I don't know.
He's in Smash though, isn't he?
He's in Smash. That's why it's just hard for me to associate Cloud completely with PlayStation like that because like he's not in. I mean, there's a lot of weird characters.
Do you associate Banjo with Nintendo or Xbox?
See,
man.
that's a spicy
I
one.
associate Banjo with Nintendo.
Yeah, me too. Actually,
I mean,
That says a lot about if they say Xbox or Nintendo. I think that's pretty revealing from like the generation they feel most fond for.
But it's just because most of the games have came to Nintendo platforms. Like they've only done like one actual new Banjo game on Xbox, right? That's just nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be sort of like Bayonetta? Like Bayonetta's on Xbox, but now it's like
Nintendo.
more, or yeah, now it's more of a Nintendo thing, right? It was on the first one was on all.
Well,
consoles.
the first and second, or the first one was on Xbox, but like the last 2 or 3 games have been exclusive to Nintendo. You know, so
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was also on the PS3, and it was a terrible port.
Oh gosh, that port was so bad.
it was pretty bad. I mean, they patched it. They patched it, but it's not good. It's not a good port.
It's a video idea that I've got in mind.
Bayonetta.
Looking at the Bayonetta PS3 port.
Yeah.
I should definitely do that.
Please greenlight that because I'd love to see your take on that.
You should do what I did to the PS3 downstairs, MVG. Overclock that thing.
Go on. You overclocked a PS3.
Yeah, you can do that.
Does it help?
Yeah, it actually does. It does actually. It does. No, it does. You can overclock the PS3, and you know what? It's all software.
What does it run Bayonetta at?
I didn't try that one. Uncharted and stuff, it does run better.
But they run good anyway. You got to try the the really unperforming games like Red Dead and Bayonetta and Orange Box. They're the ones you got to try out, John.
Yeah, just they get pretty, like the chips get kind of hot. So I only recommend doing it to a slim, and you have to like delid the heat spreaders on those, and that is not a great idea for most people because it will destroy the chips on those. But you can overclock it though. It's a custom firmware. You like load it up, and you flash it. That's it. So and you have the frame rate program, so you could actually like get the charts out and compare them. That would be cool.
Is this the Evil Nat firmware, the custom firmware that you saw?
Might be.
Because I had that, but I didn't know it had overclocking abilities on there.
Yeah, there's like a full overclocking custom firmware you can load up. So people have some comparisons on YouTube, but it's not like a wide range of different games. I don't think Bayonetta's ever really been tested, so that would actually be a good one to see if you can brute force your way to a solid 20 frames per second. That game.
Definitely benchmark a lot of the early third-party stuff. That's all of it runs very bad, and GTA 4 in particular too.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, GTA 4 definitely. Let me let me move over to Hellblade 2. We'll go through this because this is the Xbox controversy again. Man, Xbox has not been able to catch a break recently. So we did have news that Hellblade 2 is going to run at 30 frames per second, dynamic resolution, no option for performance mode. So there's not going to be a 60 FPS mode with this one. Now, remember, this game is already going to be coming in at a cheaper price point. It's going to be digital only. And they did mention it's like 7 or 8 hours or something. So it's not like a longer game either. But they did give reason as to why it's 30 frames. And they said this from the VFX director, saying in an interview with GamePro that the experience should feel more cinematic, similar to movies that run at 24 frames per second. And that's why it's a 30 frames per second, which reminds me very much of Assassin's Creed. If you remember with Unity, we had Ubisoft, I think it was a world designer who had a quote where they said if you watch something like The Hobbit at, I think it was like 48 frames, it looks off. And that's how they felt about 60 frames per second in games at the time. So that's why Unity was 30 frames as well.
My mind went to Order 1886 because that was like almost exactly the same PR back in the day. Is that the game is
cinematic?
Yeah, cinematic and referencing movies, and that was a big. It's very similar in a sense too, because the Order is also a very short game as well. So I don't know.
The key thing you said there, Ryan, was back in the day. This is 2024. What are we doing here?
I do have some other information for it. Just to be fair, the combat, all the fight animations are fully mocapped. The fights will all be one-on-one, so you're just going to fight one person at a time. They do have increased enemy variety types and new attack animation, everything for Senua. They have environmental puzzles. There was a photo mode. And the previews were extremely positive and specifically pointed out it being one of the best-looking games they've ever seen in gaming, like straight up visually. It's like on that level. But 30 frames. It seems like it's kind of been a trend recently for Microsoft, which is very unfortunate for their PR leading up to a game's release, where we had Redfall, which was a first-person shooter, and that's probably with what they were trying to accomplish there, that was probably the worst one to hear is 30 frames, but that was 30 frames on launch. They've patched it since, but if it's not at launch, it's going to be tough to win people back. We've already gone over that. And then Starfield was 30 frames, and now we're hearing that Hellblade 2 is going to be 30 frames. All of this after their lead up to the Xbox Series X release, that 60 frames is going to be more of a target or standard, as has been said in some tweets from executives at Microsoft will say. And that's tough. But I do have to ask, is it that big of a deal for a game like Hellblade 2 based on the gameplay that we've seen so far and their focus around it being a narrative title?
Yes and no. I think no, in that we kind of knew, I kind of felt like this was going to be a 30 FPS experience due to the nature of the game itself and the underlying tech that's being used, plus it's a UE5 title as well. So I never really felt like it was going to be 60, but on the flip side, why isn't it 60 frames per second, right? Because this is not an open world game. This is kind of a smaller linear game that's I think they said it was kind of roughly the size of the first game, or maybe just a bit longer, something along those lines. It's a smaller bite-sized thing. So why couldn't they get 60 FPS on this thing, right? Like, I think, you're right, you're in combat with like one enemy, and I think, the kind of the world that they put you in isn't that big as far as, the overarching, biome that you're in at the time. So I did question why they didn't do that, and I guess I also question why didn't they do like a 40 FPS mode, for people at 120 FPS displays, 120 Hz displays, like just give a little bit more, right? And maybe the underlying issue was they couldn't get a lock 60, which, hey, I totally understand that, so they had to, settle for a smooth 30, which is totally fine, but I'm curious as to why they didn't, explore maybe the 40 FPS option for 120, hertz displays. But For me, John, I'm probably just going to play it on PC, on my PC here at 60. Did the same thing for Redfall, which I felt was the best experience to play that game. So I think I'm going to just do the same thing here with Hellblade 2.
So if this game comes out and it's 30 frames, but visually, it's this incredible looking thing. Like, you've never seen anything like it. I do wonder if, for some people, visuals can overcome that frame rate. Because there are people who play at graphical fidelity in games where they have options, and they'll just settle for the 30 frames. And a lot of times, it's just they bought this new console, and they want to see what it can do. So I do wonder if that's. See, I was waiting for Ryan. I was waiting for it, Ryan, because I know you did that with Horizon. You mentioned that to me.
I don't mind it. I mean, I'm like anybody else. I'll always take 60. If it's stable, if it's unstable, I'll take the 30. If it's like locked and if there's like a really big difference and like depending on the context of gameplay, then I'll opt for 30. Like Demon's Souls, there was no way I wanted to play that game at 30. Horizon wasn't bad at 30, but I could do it. Ratchet, I had no problem playing 30. It just felt like another run-of-the-mill like PS2 platformer that were all, well, not to, in fairness, Ratchet's on PS2 were 60 for a long time, and PS3. But there's like a lot of PS2 games like that generation is primarily 30. So that game I had no problem doing 30, and I felt that the blurriness was maybe not. Like I think the game was more enjoyable with it being just as crisp looking as it was, because it's like basically playing a Pixar film at that point. But yeah, I mean, I understand that for a lot of people it's like, let's get 60 going, but we're getting further into that generation where I think, I would assume based on whatever it is they're trying to do with this game, like really push it, as MBG said, maybe they can't get a stable 60. I would just assume that's kind of where we're getting. We're going to have more and more examples of games that are not going to be able to reliably hit 60 more often than not. And it's just a decision that a lot of studios make that, it's like, oh, we're only doing 30. Because, to be honest, this bad PR was probably going to happen to anybody that announced this, right? Like,
yeah.
Remedy got flack for it with Alan Wake 2, despite how much positive buzz was going into that. Alan Wake 2 Dragon's Dogma 2 was not getting any sort of, pass on this. So maybe it looks especially bad for Microsoft, but there was gonna be pushback.
It's interesting you bring up Dragon's Dogma 2, Ryan, because we just got done with that game, and that got a lot of pushback for everything seemingly but the performance, although that was still also coming in, but it was all about like the microtransactions. That is a game that people are just playing at this weird 30 to 40 frames per second like interval where it's all over the place. You can cap it now, but I mean, people are looking at that like, oh, the game's good enough to overcome that, I guess.
That's a
frame thing.
If something's good enough, like GTA 6 comes out and it's 30 on consoles.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say this.
Come on. I hate to be that guy, but sometimes this conversation of 30 versus 60 is like kind of exhausting. Like,
well,
it's like
one thing I run into with that, Ryan, is when you have
not to go back in circles, Ryan. Like, you're comparing an open world game, GTA 6, to again a smaller linear experience that's going to have smaller corridors, smaller geometry, smaller world, less enemies, less physics, less everything, right? So, I don't know, like, again, we don't know the internals of what went on during the development of Hellblade 2 and what they were able to accomplish, but it's very hard to compare it to something like GTA 6, which we have a pretty good idea that it's probably going to run at 30 FPS because of the nature of the game itself.
Yeah, well, I don't want to compare it on a technical level. That comparison was more just consumer perception, I guess, was the point I was getting across. But you're right. I mean, I don't know why they can't at the very least offer what John said, a 40 FPS mode. I think that's a great compromise, and I think more studios should be doing something like that. If that's the compromise we have to make for, like, again, if they can't hit a reliable 60, even if the game on paper is this very linear thing with like tight combat sequences, but we don't work at the studio. I don't no idea what exactly they're doing to push this game to make it that way. Like, I don't know what the deal was with the order either,
Yeah.
That game must have been doing. I mean, it had much larger open areas compared to like what we're expecting out of Senua. If it's anything like the first game, the first game's very linear. So,
What? How long after the PS4 launched when the Order came out? A couple of years.
It was a 2015 game.
So
It was 2015.
2 years in, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready at Dawn was also a second-party studio at the time, so they were well trusted. They probably got a lot of help from Sony to get a lot out of the hardware and the dev kit, and I would assume they had a lot of direct support from Sony to get a lot of mileage out of what they were trying to do with that game, because it really is, even today, a showstopper. It looks
I
really
loaded that.
I
I
love
loaded
it.
that game up when I did that PS4 video. That was one of the games that I popped in to install. It does actually still pretty good. Like, it's shocking when you look at it. Like, really,
it's
this is a
nuts.
2015 game? Really?
It's nuts looking.
It's pretty surprising when you turn it on, like the intro and stuff with it. But if you do want a look at, you mentioned MVG Unreal Engine 5 for this game.
Mm-hmm.
There is a 60 FPS Unreal Engine 5 game that is widely available right now, actually, to people, where you don't technically have to buy it. And it's on the PS5 right now. It's Immortals of Avium. That is 60 FPS, and it's UE5. If you get a chance, install it, load it up, and tell me what you think of the image quality in that game.
I was going to say that.
It's something that I noticed when I was playing it on my Xbox, and it's very similar on the PS5 there, is it's not great. The image quality it's pretty blurry, and I was like throwing me off, like, okay, it's fluid, it's 60, but it doesn't look very good. Like, it's just grainy and blurry, and I guess they decided we're going to turn the resolution down because we want this to be like Call of Duty with magic, and that's what they did. So is this an Unreal Engine 5 thing, MVG?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's an Unreal Engine 5 thing, right? I don't really know what this is. I mean, I think we really just need to learn more about, what went on during the development of this. Maybe DF can shed some more insight on it when the game comes out. I don't want to put the blame on Unreal Engine 5. I mean, Fortnite runs in UE5, doesn't it? So,
Yes.
So I think it's really just about, the amount of tech that they kind of pushed into this game, and maybe the cinematic experience concept was what they were aiming for the whole time. And I guess there's something to be said about if you say, look, we're going to make this a cinematic experience, it's going to be 30 FPS on console, then you kind of take away that, that time and money that you have to spend optimizing this game to run at 60, right? I'm not saying developers were lazy. I'm just saying maybe they just made that decision from the get-go that it was going to be a 30 FPS cinematic experience, and they just ran with it. And they basically pushed as much tech into the game as they could. And, from all intents and purposes, it sounds like it's going to be one of the most impressive-looking games we've ever seen on consoles to date. That obviously does remain to be seen, but there's a lot of previews that are going on about how good this game looks. So, I guess we'll have to see when it comes out and make our own determination on, because we may fire it up and say, yeah, I can see why this game was never going to be 60, right? Because it looks so damn good, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Right.
Do you guys think that the movie thing, the cinematic experience thing, is just like a crutch? Because that's kind of what it sounds like to me. Because,
Maybe.
like, why could they not, like, they want a cinematic experience, you make the cutscenes 24 or 30 FPS, you make the gameplay sections 60, right? They're
Yep.
different mediums.
Well, they want the cinematic experience while you're playing, like you're
That
playing.
is not
the
a thing, though. Like, that's not a thing, right?
No, that's what they want. That's what I
Yeah,
think.
but
I think
I
that's what
thought
they want.
I see what you're saying. I do kind of feel like that was sort of, I guess you say an excuse. I don't think that's the real reason why it's 30.
Well, no,
I
I'm
think
saying
I
I
agree.
don't think so.
I think that they want to push for 30 because they want this cinematic. Did you read like the description of what they said
No,
You know,
to be honest.
about the game?
No.
Like, I'm just saying, like, if you
I'm
can.
busy, I'm sorry.
Okay, no. I'm just saying, like, the description says. The description says, like, hey, look, like, it's going to be all about these one-on-one battles, right? One-on-one battles. It's not super fast-paced. It's not anything like that. So, I mean, if the input delay isn't bad, if the response timing is fine, and they want to go for that, that's fine. I mean, they probably could have done a 60 frames per second mode, but maybe, like MVG says, they didn't do it. But people who like Hellblade are gonna play the game regardless. If you like Hellblade, you're gonna play it. So,
but the thing with that is it's gonna be most likely 60 frames on the PC. They should do is they should lock the PC version to 30. They need to do that.
Oh yeah, that'll go down well.
Right?
Someone's gonna just hack the config files and get it at 60 anyway.
Well, then we gotta get. Well, you're right, but we gotta get Denuvo on there then.
You can't.
We gotta get the DRM going.
John,
okay,
please.
I'm just trying to keep the cinematic vision alive, MG. It's just funny they said that, but then it's gonna run at 60, probably 120 on someone's PC somewhere. I don't know. It sounds to me like the Xbox Series X is gonna show a really visually impressive game. It's also very demanding, and it's gonna be 30 because of that. So,
do you think it's something where they will? It's just they're not gonna. It's not a day one thing. Like eventually they'll offer it, because I'm more inclined to believe, I guess, the point MVG brought up, which is maybe just from the very onset the studio decided we're not even going to attempt to, like, just on console we're going for 30. So there's like no resources being put into it right now from start to finish.
Did we ever get the Redfall 60 patch for consoles?
Yes,
we did. Okay, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really good question, right? I don't know, man. Like, another thing that I keep thinking in my mind is the developers maybe said, look, we can do 60, but we need 6 more months, to get this in there. And Microsoft higher up said, no, we got to ship this game because it was announced with the launch of the Series X back in, was it 2019?
Yeah.
Like, this game has been in development for a long time. This is, we're talking a long, long time. So maybe they just said, look, you got to get this game out.
Yeah, it's not a full price game either. So in their mind, it's like, come on, we gotta get this thing shipped, guys. Let's go. Let's get this thing in the Game Pass. Let's get it for sale. Let's get moving here. So, and that might be a point. You're right, MVG, where they're thinking, 60 FPS patch can come later. It's fine.
But if we're still on this thing of it being cinematic, which I know we're not, but I'm just saying, like, that would prove that it wasn't an artistic choice, right? Because they want it to be 60, and then the idea would be sort of a crutch.
The thing is, though, if I was making a game and it was only running at 30 and they asked, why didn't you run it at 60, I'd give the same response.
Yeah, no, it's a good excuse, but it is an excuse. Right? It's not like a purposeful thing that they wanted to do in the beginning.
I'll remember that image for when you get cornered at a PAX or something, and they're asking you why your new game is 30.
Yeah, it's a cinematic experience. We're going for that filmic look. We'll have the chronic aberration, and all that stuff going on to make it look like a movie.
Motion blur.
Yeah.
100. I think everyone roasted the Assassin's Creed developer, the PR person, when they said that. People are roasting Ninja Theory's person for saying, it's.
And it's not
we've been here before.
I don't think 30 frames is playable. Like, I have a Switch to exclusively play on my Switch. Like, I understand. Like, I'm totally okay with that. But I'm just saying, like, it's an excuse.
Yeah, the thing that I always find is funny now are like the 60 FPS absolutists that comment about this stuff. Like, I can't play anything that's 30. And in my mind, every time I hear that, I'm like, we'll see what happens next year when GTA 6 comes out.
But GTA is a whole different thing. It's like, GTA is different because like MVG has all this other stuff. So that one gets a pass, but nothing else.
But I think, like, personally, like, if it doesn't really affect the gameplay for me, then I'm fine with it most of the time. But I'm just, I
played Zelda as well.
I played Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. If that shows you how much I care about performance, there we go. I really don't.
Well, I care about.
I wish it was better. Truly, I don't think it was good. But I'm just saying, like, I still beat the entire game and played it.
Oh yeah, me too. But it's just
sorry.
It was. I fell through the thing so many times.
It happened to me like twice where I fell through like the stage.
Yeah, and then it would just crash. Like, it crashed all the time.
Yeah, I didn't have crashes.
Oh really? That's good.
No, I didn't have.
I was playing on the first Switch though, which I think could have.
Yeah, like the
the
first
day one Switch.
Oh, the day one. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was playing on OLED. So.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. It's coming out May 21st, so we're 6 weeks away from it. We'll see when it comes out. I will be playing it day one, and then probably finishing it apparently by day 2. So there you go.
I'm gonna also play it day 1. I'm gonna commit to that. I think I want to see it.
Series S.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
I want to see what the cinematic experience is as a film major. I'm gonna judge it.
Wait.
Okay.
Did you play the first game?
Nope.
Oh, play the first game.
Oh, interesting.
This game's on the Switch. It's a really good port too.
Okay.
You should check it out.
I would get you want headphones for it, Josie.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I decided I'm done with Hellblade. As soon as I put in those headphones, I don't like all that whispering shit in my ear.
Yeah. Do you know about that, Josie? The audio stuff.
What the hell?
You know the audio stuff they do in the game? Really? Oh, I don't even want to tell you. You just need to play it. And is it? That should be. That's in Game Pass.
I already can tell that Josie's not going to like Hellblade.
Why?
I don't know. I think I know Josie's kind of style enough with games.
Yeah.
What she likes, what she doesn't. I feel like Hellblade's going to be lost on her.
Well,
But maybe-
get ready for
maybe
the
not.
next podcast where
Maybe
you get lit up by the comments.
It's. I mean, I feel like it's in. Someone in the chat can double check. I feel like that's in Game Pass.
I'll totally play it if it's
Hellblade,
Game
the first
Pass.
one, and it's not a long game at all, but it is a very interesting experience. If you've never played it with like the audio and stuff they do, you want headphones of some kind when you play it. Plug it into your controller, plug it into your Switch, wherever you're playing it, and go from there because they do a lot of audio stuff in terms of like people being behind you, and it's very interesting.
God, okay.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it is on Game Pass. Okay, cool. Thank you, Fairbanks. It is on there, so you can download it, play it on the Series S, see what you think.
I'll give you my thoughts next week then.
Good. Like I said, it's not a long game, so you can play it an hour here or there. You'll probably be done this week pretty quick.
Okay. We'll do then.
Let's talk about. We'll talk about the Nintendo 3DS Wii U stuff real quick, and then I'll go to the Super Chats. I saw some people asking when I get to those. We'll get to them probably next 15 or so minutes. All right, so this week Nintendo is shutting down the Wii U and 3DS online. They've already shut down the stores. I believe that is April 8th. They're shutting.
Monday.
April 8th, Monday. Okay, cool.
4
Monday.
p.m.
So
PDT.
got it. So they are shutting everything down for the Wii U, 3DS in terms of online play. The big ones people were playing, probably Mario Kart, Splatoon, and Mario Maker. I'm missing one other one. I know those are like the big ones that people are still playing. They did clear, by the way, the community did clear all Mario Maker levels. They were having a hard time with one of them. It was into the herbs or something, but it was a tool-assisted run. Someone still managed to beat it. Didn't matter, they still beat it. So that's all done. But what's interesting to me about this is this felt heavy nostalgia-driven. There was a lot of discussion around the Wii U, like in the last 2 days, I think. And I don't think I remember the Wii U the same a lot of people do. I think there are a lot of people who are more comfortable now really discussing how the Wii U was because the Switch is a far and away success for Nintendo. That was not a great time for Nintendo in terms of home consoles, the Wii U. People are kind of remembering, I think, a bit differently.
You're allowed to like it, so people are saying, oh, well, you can't tell me I didn't like it because I even liked it back then. And that's fine. Nobody's saying that anybody can't like it, but I'm hearing, like I said, the cat. It's the golden era. Like stuff like that for fans, not just for yourself, but for fans. And I'm thinking, what fans? We're talking. Like, it was missing, like tons. It's missing new Metroid game, missing new Animal Crossing, missing Fire Emblem. It's like missing like a ton of franchises that all went to the 3DS. So how can the system be the golden era when it's all of the cool games? A lot of the cool games are on 3DS. Also, like no RPGs. Barely any third-party support after like the launch or so, right? So it's like, what golden era are we talking about here? Are there good games? Sure, because a lot of those games are on the Switch, but there was no golden era.
Yeah, I can back up the 3DS after. The 3DS is a phenomenal system. It is a great one to own now. 3DS games, awesome. But the Wii U, I don't know. I'm looking back on it and I'm trying to figure it out. The only thing I can think of is the Wii U has, I would say it has more personality than the Switch in terms of, like people point out the menu system, the eShop music.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's also slow. It's also slow as hell though.
I'm not gonna say it's not slow. It is.
Yeah, it's also slow.
A lot of systems at that time though were slow. I was using like even the PS3 recently. Cross media bar is
kind of laggy. Yeah,
that's kind of laggy. The 360, the blade system I think was faster, but when they got later on, it became kind of slower.
Yeah.
But you've actually used the Wii U somewhat recently because you've soft modded it, which, to be fair, does make the system pretty awesome. I will say that. But do you remember the Wii U like that? Are you thinking differently? Like the Wii U was, someone said golden era for Nintendo?
No. In fact, I'm actually making a video for Monday because I'm looking at the Pretendo network, the replacement, because that's kind of the community-driven replacement for Nintendo Network. So I've been actually, I set that up on my Wii U and my 3DS. I have a video out on Monday, so I won't talk about it in too much detail. But I did fire up the Wii U again, John. Even with the aroma hacks and all that stuff to speed up the loading and everything, the UI is so slow and clunky, man. Like there's just no way around it. Like it takes forever to do anything in that user interface. It really is quite painful. But yeah, I mean, the Wii U was a good system. I like the Wii U, but I mean, golden era and all this other nonsense that's going around. No, come on. I mean, OJ is absolutely right. It was a system that I felt like, did bring some innovation to the table, and obviously a lot of those concepts were brought forward to the Switch. But at the end of the day, it's a system that just, it's not good. It's not good.
I kind of agree with everyone, but I grew up with this thing. Like, this was, like, my actual system that sort of got me into, like, games, I guess, more so. Like, this was the first system that was mine. So I really love my Wii U, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And I think the reason people are saying it's, like, the golden era is, like, I think a lot of people around my age, a lot of the good there is really good games on the Wii U, right? So if you, like, look at those games that are there and not the ones that aren't, it is really solid. But you're also missing the months and months of there being nothing, which, to be fair, I did because I got mine in, like, 2014 when half of the stuff was out already. So it was kind of nice.
I think
it just depends on, like, where people jump into it,
That's a really good point. Because I remember waiting months for something to come out. Like, it was like, when's the next thing? And when's the next first party game? And we were waiting and waiting and waiting. Like, there was just nothing coming out. And then, obviously, the third party stuff was very much non-existent for the most part, so it was frustrating. But I can definitely see coming into it later on when there is a little bit of a software base that's been established and some good first-party experiences already available. I can definitely see how you would basically jump on board and be like, yeah, this is a pretty decent system. I like this,
Yeah, especially if you're more casual. Like, imagine these are the people who maybe had, like, a Wii, right? And they don't necessarily, like, want all these super hardcore experiences. Some of them, not all of them. It'd be nice, obviously, to have all that stuff, but I kind of understand the sentiment. I don't agree with it, because I personally like the Switch a lot more, but I just think that the Wii U, at the time, I really liked it. I think it's a good system, but, yeah, definitely not amazing.
I put a lot of time into my Wii U as well. It's not like I well, there's some things
OJ hates the Wii U. I cannot believe him.
But no,
Roasted Jack, freaking come at this guy right now.
I really hate some things, like the lack of RPGs really pissed me off. But I do like Xeno X, and I do like, there's like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and there's things that I really like about it. But just, yeah, like the droughts. Like I covered the system from start to finish. From the launch, I was there. I was covering it from the beginning, and this was the sentiment among fans everywhere at the time. We were waiting and waiting and waiting for things to happen. Like just waiting for things to happen over and over, and like just. And yeah, there's good games. Like, I think 2014 was probably the most exciting year, right? Because that was Bayonetta, that was DKC, that was Super Smash Brothers. There was a lot of there was a lot of cool games, and that was great. And then they had that great Nintendo presentation. They showed off Zelda, Breath of the Wild was there. So I mean, that was cool. But like, that was like the only year that I can sit there and say, oh my god, that was a great year. 2015, they had already almost like pretty much tipped their hands and said, we're moving on. By 2015. They announced the NX at the beginning of 2015, and the E3 that year was not great. I mean, there was some cool games. We had Splatoon and stuff, and there was, but that was pretty much done. And then by 2016, they fully shut off the Switch. So it was like started and stopped, and it was like done. I don't know, there just wasn't enough from, like on the Switch, like you can play like Persona and all that. Like you can't get those experiences on the Wii U, and people were wanting them. Like I specifically remember people saying, "We need more of this. We need more of this. We need more of this," and we didn't get a lot of it. So I mean, yeah, looking back, but you also got to look at what happened during the time. There's a lot missing. There's a lot missing. Like way too much missing.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's that disconnect between like that time and now looking back on it. Because you look back on it and it's like, oh wow, that gave us Splatoon, which is like a really big franchise for Nintendo now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that gave us Mario Maker, which is like such a cool new thing for Mario. And like, you look at it and Pikmin 3, like a lot of people really like it. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, like one of the best platformers. So I just think it's like revisionist history where you look at these cherry-picked games that were really amazing and you're like, oh, this system was a lot better than I thought. But if you don't, and that's entirely if you don't take into the account of like how long you were waiting and all the droughts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That said, if you can get one now,
great
system
It's not good.
Oh, right.
Yeah, MG has a whole video. There it is. MG has a whole video showcasing his modded Wii U, and it is pretty sick.
So the great thing about a modded Wii U is it can play Wii games, GameCube, DS, GBA, Super NES, NES, Game Boy. I mean, thing's a beast when it comes to back compat.
You have convinced me about that in the PS3. I've set out to build the ultimate PS3 now in VG, so you've convinced me of all of that.
There's
360, Wii U, and the PS3. So I'm doing with the Slim.
That's not ultimate.
We're gonna have PS2 games running on that thing. It's gonna be sweet.
You can't crown a PS3 Ultimate if it's not a backwards compatible CDCHA01. I'm sorry.
I can do it.
And you definitely can't do it if it's not a test unit that can play region-free PS1, PS2.
Well, I can't do that.
And Gears of War.
And Gears of War.
A tool model.
But wait, can I play Ridge Racer? Can I play Ridge Racer?
They can all play Ridge Racer.
Okay, well then that's the most ultimate one then, right? You win.
So here's a background for me. A perspective where I never got a Wii U. And I love Nintendo. And I never felt compelled to get a Wii U. And by the time Switch dropped, and one port came, another port came, another port came. So
that was it. You were a DS guy. You were a 3DS guy.
Home console versus handheld. I love Nintendo handhelds. So in a weird way, I guess it's also a bit bizarre that I didn't feel compelled to get a Wii U, with the whole gamepad support. But at the time, nothing compelled me to get one immediately. And as time pressed forward, I think the only thing that I was really missing, or that I thought was really cool, was just the sort of novelty of virtual console having handheld games, which I thought was really cool and dope. So it kind of sucked that that kind of initiative from Nintendo never came over the Switch. At least a la carte buying and owning them, or grandfathering those previous that would have been great. But now it's all paywall behind a subscription service, which is a pain. But now there's only a handful of games that are stuck on Wii U. The only reason why I think I would ever want a Wii U is to play the Kirby, what is it, Rainbow?
Rainbow Kirby.
Rainbow. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's so. So, I still kind of feel bad that I never got one because I'm I love Nintendo hardware, but that's how poorly I think they did. Is that even I was not willing to go get one.
There's a lot of people who weren't, unfortunately, for that. So, although the games are already becoming rare. They're going to be very rare in 10 years. So there's that at least. But yeah, I don't know. The Wii U talk. I think there was a lot of nostalgia talking the past couple of days, and it's not even correct nostalgia really. But it's all getting shut down this week. MVG's going to apparently show everyone an alternative on Monday.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's not perfect. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but it works.
Okay, well, everyone's going to want to tune in to MVG's video on Monday to see what happens after, what you can do to, I guess, play some of your games online. Let me go to some of the super chats here as we go through. This is from Sony is Best saying, MVG, admit you're working on Parasite Eve. Square gave you the source code like Gex. We all know it. And then skip the Xbox, please.
I heard that the source code for Parasite Eve was lost.
Oh.
So that should answer your question there. Sony is best.
That's a shame. Scar says, just dropping in to say good day. This is from Michael. Says, did you guys see the Dino Crisis remake leak?
No.
I did not. Interesting.
That means it's not real.
Is it on like one of those pieces of paper that has like Sony Showcase at the top and then there's three things to blow at bull points? No.
There was a leak of the actual PS1 game coming to PlayStation Plus Premium, and then it never showed up.
Oh, that's right. It was like an advertised thing on PlayStation Plus on one of the pages.
Yeah, it never showed up.
Huh.
You just gotta assume it's still coming.
This is from Breaksu, says, I'm thinking that the rumored Nintendo Direct for April is just them showing off the Donkey Kong expansion for Universal in Japan. It's open as a spring. That would be one of the best swerves.
Oh my god.
That would hurt some people. I feel like that would crush some dreams, man.
I would be crushed. My dreams would be crushed.
I hope they do it now.
Wow. Hurtful. Because I'm a girl.
Sure.
Hey! Whoa. I'm gonna clip that and put it on Twitter.
All right, go ahead. I've already been canceled multiple times.
Cody says, MVG, have you ever felt imposter syndrome as a dev in your career? I'm a web dev, and it moves so fast with so many frameworks, it feels hard to keep up.
First of all, your avatar looks like Nate the Hate over there, Cody. Just wanted to point that out. Imposter syndrome all the time, man. Like, sometimes I wake up in the morning and think, what am I doing here? Like, yeah, it's a real thing. You know, like, I'm usually someone that just gets things done, and I don't really, you know, spend too much time dwelling on stuff like that. But there are definitely days where I do have, you know, thoughts of like, am I even the right person in this role? You know, is there someone else that should have been in this spot other than myself? But yeah, I definitely feel it sometimes. So I think, you know, if you do get imposter syndrome, just fight through it, man. Just, you know, take a break, take a walk, unplug for a little bit, and just clear your head and get back into it. Because the reason why you were hired as a web dev is because you're obviously experienced and you're good, right? They didn't hire you, you know, by accident. So you always remember those things when you kind of feel down.
It's from Metro, says, will ROG Ally 2/Revision release this year or 2025? It's a very good question. I feel like it's coming this year. That'd be my assumption, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. This is from Silver Strike, who says, is anyone on this podcast a real Silent Hill fan?
Yes, I am. I love Silent Hill 2.
And would you like Silent Hill 2?
I like Silent Hill 3. I like The Room. I'm actually very low-key hyped about the remake. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I am a big fan of that.
I like Silent Hill. I'm not super invested in the franchise, but I like Silent Hill. I do.
Yeah, I don't like Silent Hill, and
No,
I don't care about the franchise. And I never claimed to. I don't think I even made a video on it or anything. It's about Silent Hill.
Why devs or Unreal Engine can't run 60 FPS on consoles? That's a perfect image.
Again, I mean, we can't look at Hellblade as the example here, and anything that's UE5 prior to that. I think it's really just the engine itself. The iteration of Unreal Engine 5 is still very much in its infancy. So give developers more time to get their head around it. I think, you know, next couple of years we'll start to see Unreal Engine really kind of start to shine and offer some really good experiences. But right now it's, you know, you can't really compare things.
This is from Bill Gates, no pressure. Says, hey, do you guys play with controller or mouse and keyboard on PC? I play with both. So mouse and keyboard, like we did South Park, I played mouse and keyboard in that. If it's like a platform or something, I'll just use a controller.
Depends on the game. If we're playing Halo, I'm obviously on mouse and keyboard. Like you said, if it's a platformer, I'm just plugging a controller in.
We had like Avatar, that came out, and I played that on PC with a controller actually, because there was platforming in that, and it felt kind of, I mean, you can still do it with mouse keyboard, but I did use a DualSense controller for that one. And you know, some of these games that are coming out do have DualSense features on Steam, so it will communicate with DualSense and do the advanced haptic feedback, the triggers now, that sort of thing. So I'm getting more and more used to using either an Xbox controller or a DualSense controller if it's a Sony game now.
Even Baldur's Gate 3 has really good controller support on PC, and I kind of found myself going back and forth between mouse and keyboard and then controller, because control is really good on BG3, so it depends on the experience or on the game that's being played.
This is from Dave, who says, Rebirth has great gameplay, but the main story has so much padding and filler. Splitting it into 3 games for a cash grab was a big mistake. Well, Dave,
you should sign up to the Spawncast Network, because John and I did 2 deep dive explorations on Rebirth.
Yeah, it was like an hour recording. There were like 2 30-minute videos of it. One like light general spoilers, if any, and the other one's just all spoilers everything. But Dave, I think you have a point here, but you're going to want to see the video.
Speaking of Spawncast Network, Game & Talk's going to go weekly if we guys get to 500 people, just so you know.
Oh, really?
So everybody knows. Yeah, we're going to go weekly, so.
Okay.
Just like a cool, if you haven't yet and you've been thinking about it, like, come on.
Why, is Nintendo Direct happening soon? I know Nate's over there.
No, we're just going to have
he's like,
to talk about, but,
Direct
just thinking, like,
which
more
tunes
vibes,
get revealed.
Yeah, Nate likes to leak stuff, So, you should I'm just saying, it's a cool one.
This is from Broccoli, who says, Hellblade 2, a movie with game elements, modern gaming. DVD Night says, always great conversations. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, DVD Night. Andy Taylor says, a modern console is a low-end PC with a custom OS.
It's not entirely true, Andy, but I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but it's not entirely true. But I respect the opinion.
Banana Mario became a member again, said, whether a game should be 60 or 30 FPS, I say it's definitely case-by-case basis, but I dislike the saying any game that runs 30 FPS is unplayable. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's not unplayable.
Yeah, I agree.
Nicholas says, is there no physical release for Hellblade 2? There is not at this time. It's going to be digital. Or just on Game Pass. Xenoblade Chronicles X is the only reason to own a Wii U these days, from Scar. Yeah, still, that's what I would have liked to have seen on the Switch, but we're kind of running out of time. So
I don't know, man. Like, I really enjoyed Deus Ex Human Revolution on the Wii U. Took advantage of the gamepad in really good ways. I like Tekken Tag Tournament 2 on the Wii U. Some pretty good games on the Wii U. Not
Woolly
just
World.
Xenoblade Chronicles. Yeah, Woolly World's good. That's not on the Switch, right?
No, we got Crafted World, the worst one.
Yep.
this is from Acebreaker. Says, Wii U revisionist history is pure copium. Thanks, Acebreaker. This is from Sicilian Gamer, says, Spawncast Golden Era is when RGC85 is not on. This is from Wormsworth, says, just want to thank you all for the show. Each of your individual takes, opinions, and knowledge of gaming is very much appreciated. I guess that's all. Thank you, Worms. Andy Taylor says, Wii U was the original Switch with bad marketing.
Damn, Andy. he's just cooking tonight.
Why is Hellblade 2 only digital? Ninja Theory is doing the same boneheaded decision like Remedy did with Alan Wake 2. BG3 and Bomber Cyberpunk released digitally or physically by the smaller studios like Larian Studios and Reptile Team. Well, who is doing the physical releases for some of the recent Xbox ones? Was that Limited Run, or was that someone else? Someone come in and do that?
Limited Run.
Oh, there you go. Maybe Limited Run will come and do Hellblade 2 later. I don't know. Claw says, I'm a little surprised how good the CMU emulator is. Seems like despite the issues, there was somewhat decent demand for the Wii U later in its life. This is from Carpet Fresh, who says, Josie, how old were you when the Switch was revealed?
I was in 8th grade.
There you go.
So I think it was 14. 14? Yeah, that makes sense. That's actually perfect math. It would be 14.
See, Josie gives us a very different perspective from all of us old people.
Yeah, 14-year-old with... I was really excited for that. That's when I got into YouTube, too. Right after I watched that Switch reveal. I was like, I gotta see what everybody's saying.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it'll probably be reenacted again here soonish, I think, with the Switch.
Hopefully. RGT keeps talking about these easy views. I've been killing myself for these views. I'm down.
You'll be on YouTube to do it. That'll be good. Dark Dream says, hearing the Saber CEO saying the KOTOR remake is obviously being worked on. Well, yeah, the conflicting news was due to Grub mostly, and if SBI stays away good, current day BS. I think Saber is gonna go big with Knights of the Republic. I think that's also gonna be multi-platform now. I think they're just Xbox, PlayStation, PC. I think they're just going for it. Saber they're a pretty big studio, so they can most likely get it done at multi-platform. And I feel like that's a project that if they do it right, could lead to quite a nice partnership with Disney actually. So. Jason says Sean avoiding the show after John outing him as Sir Nintendo. He should now and forever be introduced as Sir Nintendo, the non-Nintendo YouTuber. Yeah, so in our South Park video, I found out a whole backstory of Sean that he hadn't really talked about because his username it was on Steam was Sir Nintendo, and he never plays on Steam, so he had to set that up with his email address. And he had an entire rap career that spanned about 4 months, where he was Sir Nintendo, and he hit the mean street with bootleg discs and burned CDs, and sold them out. And I didn't sell them out of car, but he tried to pass them off. It was a whole thing. It's pretty funny. 5 minutes just go back and forth where I realized this, and I kept bringing it up.
Sir Nintendo. That's so good.
Others from Enigmatic Dream says, if Parasite Eve source code is lost, is an HD port impossible?
No. I mean, you can reverse engineer the game. It just takes a lot longer if you don't have the original source code.
Didn't they do that with FF8? I'm pretty sure they did something like that.
They did. And one studio that I know that reverse engineered the game was Turok 3 Night Dive. They didn't have the original source, so they just reverse engineered the entire game. Took them a couple of years, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. It just takes a lot longer if you don't have the code.
Andy Taylor again says original Silent Hill had an incredible theme music. Quetzal Gaming Network is Fat John exclusive to Patreon. No, he's exclusive to 2018 and before.
Or if you remember on Game & Talk, you get a Fat John emote.
Is there? Oh, that's cool. I like that. We should do more of that.
More in the chat. It's really good.
I'll take it. Mike Wells says Duck Hunt was on Wii U, but not on Switch to this day.
Not wrong.
See, the Wii U was better. Man. Let's go over to something that had VG going back to composite. This is a weird one.
Oh, the TV thing?
Roku put out a patent that was made public over on, it's actually on Google Patents now, but it's a pretty straightforward read where Roku, did anyone know that they made TVs?
Yeah.
My sister has a Roku.
Really? I know Roku, they have the OS and stuff that they have set up right on TCL and that sort of thing. You turn your TV on and it's there. It's Roku stuff. I was unaware that they started making. Apparently, it was last year they started really pushing out TVs, and I guess they're just in Best Buy, Walmart, Target, and stuff. But Roku has filed a patent where the TV would be able to detect what's happening through your HDMI port. It could be your Xbox or PlayStation Switch, watching a movie through a Blu-ray player, and it can detect when something is paused, and it can then drop an ad in there through your HDMI port and the TV. So it doesn't matter what's plugged in, it would overlay it, I assume. They didn't go into too much detail as to how they would do it, just that it's something that they would like to be able to do, and they made that patent, and that got people a bit concerned, because I feel like if Roku came up with this, I have to imagine these other big companies like a Samsung and LG, they've probably also thought of this as well. So I'm more thinking, okay, how exactly is it going to know if you're paused, or if maybe, for example, when we're playing WWE 2K24 and there's lag and everything on the screen freezes. I'm imagining right there, it's like, we got him. Let's drop the Doritos Cool Ranch ad.
I mean, every smart TV has a frame buffer, right? You know what I mean? There's an internal frame buffer on the TV. So I haven't read the patent, so maybe I'm oversimplifying things, but the way that I would see it working is if basically the image is still after a certain amount of time. I don't mean a couple of seconds. I mean maybe after a couple of minutes or something like that. It's implied that maybe you have paused your TV or you've stepped away, so maybe that's the opportunity to run some ads on it. I think it's fucking horrible that this patent is even being considered. And it's just one of those things where we're going to live in a society where literally they're going to start running ads no matter where you are. Like, I got shit on my phone about Skype the other day. Like, Skype is now giving me breaking news stories and stuff like that.
I think it's me.
And dude,
what the fuck?
Dude, I think this is the way things are going to go. Like, they're going to start trying to push ads in every little crevice there is available to us in technology, whether that is via TVs, whether that is on our phones, whether that is if you pause a video game and you've left it pause for more than a couple, 30 seconds or a minute. I think it's coming, and I think it's going to be terrible.
It's so intrusive too. It's just not. Like, that's not okay. I don't know. And then I feel like they're going to make us pay to not have that on a TV.
Probably.
No, you're going to still pay, and then they're still going to do them like Netflix.
Yeah, there's going to be,
Like,
the cheaper
you pay
option.
for it, and there's still ads even when you pay
Less
for
ads,
it.
though. That's
I think it'd be something where if this actually happened, they would, because they try and spin this positively. So you'd be in Best Buy and there'd be ad-supported TV that starts at $200, and then the no ad TV is $400. But you'd have families that would be like, we're gonna get the cheapest TV possible, and that's how they're offsetting it and trying to make it, like a.
The problem is you can't trust these companies to not change that later on with a firmware update in the future. Anyway, I mean, isn't Discord doing ads now, like limited ads or something?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they just roll? Dude, ads are going to take over our lives. I mean, they already are, but things are going to get so much worse, I feel, with all this bullshit that's going on right now.
But you remember how there's been
immediately
so many examples of what we've seen, like over like a 15-20 year period, like some publishers were looking into this.
Yeah.
Either pause menus or like there's that recent thing where what was it? Was it a Ubisoft game where like an ad just like came up during? I forget what game
it was.
I think it was
Assassin's Creed.
Yes,
was
Assassin's
it?
Creed, right?
Yeah, it just came up like the ad just appeared. It's almost playing.
There's been patents for it, and there's been like real examples where like it's I guess more like it was like an ad tie-in with the game right off the very onset. Like you'd be driving and burn out, and a billboard's like a real thing, like a real advertisement or something. But, yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of companies that did not have advertising as part of their business model, and now it is. So MVG's not far off at all. It sucks.
I think it'll work its way into our games in the next generation. Like as soon as we start getting that cloud integration, I feel like that's their green light to just go for it in open world games. And they're ads that you won't be necessarily intrusive, but like you said, you'll look up in an open world and there'll be a billboard, and it's like, okay, Michelin tires or something.
Yeah,
That's sort of kind of a thing, though. I remember doing that. Like, what was it? Like Madden. Madden had stickers and all sorts of stuff in like.
That's what I mean. Like
shows. Yeah.
Some games do have like real ads, and where it makes sense. Like that is like I guess the least intrusive way you could possibly do it. But even then, it's just you give a big company like an inch, they're going to take a mile.
Oh yeah. The thing though with Roku is, if I'm Roku right now, it feels like they're trying to like break into the industry or the market in terms of their own hardware, their own TVs. Obviously, Samsung and LG and Sony are like the ones that have like a stranglehold on the industry for TVs. I feel like this is something I would not do right now and put out there, because then like my immediate thought now is, I guess I'm not going to buy a Roku TV at all.
Remember in the days where they would like make video games around products like the Burger King sneaking game and the Doritos game? Like, just make those again. Like, if you wanna us to buy your product, just make a game around the product. Don't throw ads in any pause or delay or anything like that. I think, man, I hope we don't get to that point where they just start riddling video games with ads, because that would really, really annoy me a lot.
I think right now, like the mobile game, the whole mobile game industry is horrendous because of that. And then they like spam you with ads so bad that it's like forces you, if you actually like the game, to buy the whole thing. And then on top of it, there's microtransactions, and then most of the time it's just less ads, and you still get ads for their other games, but you're not getting ads for other games that aren't theirs.
That's a great point. Some mobile games will do it where they'll have like an option, say,
yes,
watch this ad, willingly watch this ad, and then
or you get another life.
In-game,
yes.
Yeah, something for the in-game economy. Mobile's like an excellent point. It's horrendous there.
Hopefully that's not where home is, like, if that's where gaming is headed, like, that's really bad. Because...
apparently Microsoft is looking into that for their Game Pass stuff, where they can offer either very cheap or even free, and just ads will be part of it if you want to sign up for that tier.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Xbox Live Gold back in the day, John, they used to run like World of Warcraft commercials. This is way before ABK. This is like 2009, time frame. And even that annoyed me. It's like, I'm paying for Xbox Live Gold here. I'm paying $120 a year. Why the fuck am I getting ads on my, on my dashboard? So it doesn't surprise me that they would do that.
I'll throw in the correction because otherwise there's gonna be a comment with like 50 things under it. It was $60 a year then.
Was it?
For Xbox Live Gold, yeah. You're right now. Technically, with Game Pass, it's even more than that, right? But back then it was like the 60. But you're right. There were definitely ads with Xbox Live Gold. You're right about that.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that whole thing. I feel like that would have been crazy online if we had social media and stuff really kicking at that time. We didn't have it like
yeah,
Twitter or something.
120 Australian. See, I was in Australia back in the day, so I'm sticking to the 120.
Okay, I understand that. But yeah, ads are going to be it's become more and more part of the industry. Probably just our lives in general. Everything become digitized and electronic. Let's talk about Apple. This is more Brian's territory, but it's interesting because MEG, you said, well, like a podcast or two ago, that you don't really do any Apple stuff like that.
What do you mean? I got an iPhone right here.
Oh, your iPhone. You don't have, like, PC wise, like wise, like MacBook Pros,
no,
Apple TV.
I have an iPhone. I don't have any other Apple devices. I'm actually more of a Google person, other than the iPhone.
Well, we have some news that emulators are being greenlit or approved by Apple at this time, and this just happened like 2 days ago, to where they put out a developer guidelines update, and they seem to be fine now with game emulators and apps that may offer certain software that is not embedded in the binary, specifically HTML5, mini apps, mini games, streaming games, chatbots, plugins. Additionally, retro game console emulator apps can offer to download games. That sounds kind of crazy, but the idea here is, could we start having Dolphin just show up in the App Store now? Can we have any of the popular Game Boy Advanced ones? Can we have anything for PS2, PS1? Because that's something that I feel like people have been unsure of, so a lot of it's been like side loading. You would jailbreak something to then run all these emulators on. But if you could just have them directly on their App Store, and Apple seems fine with it in this case, as they're directly pointed out here. And I'm confused about how that would even work, MVG. The idea that the emulator could offer to download games in the app?
Tell me, John, how is this different from emulators on the Android store right now, on the Google Play Store? Is it the same thing? Are we talking about the same thing here? Because you can download Yuzu, and you can download DuckStation, you can download all those kind of Android ports of popular emulators. So I don't really see this being any different on the on iOS than it would be for Android. I think they're just opening it up because obviously, historically, they've always been against emulation. They've never really allowed them on this store, so they're just kind of opening that up. So I don't really feel like it's going to be any different than what you get on the Android store.
So I want to point something out, MG, okay? Because I've been telling you should try this for a while, okay? I've said, hey, you should buy one of these, see what you think. This will allow them, any of these people who are working on these emulators, more reason to create for the Apple Silicon at this point, because the App Store is incredibly popular for applications. I mean, so many downloads, so much exposure comes from these stores. And if now they realize that a lot of people are going to start downloading for iPads, iPhones, iMacs, MacBook Pros just on the store, and they have a reason to then develop for the M1, the M2, I would be very curious to see what those chips can do, because they are very, very impressive in any application that's developed natively for it, even in games. So that's kind of something I was thinking. I'm like, could we actually see some of these emulators get more of a focus on an M1 chip and a MacBook Air that doesn't even have a fan? It just runs completely passive, and it's fairly, for Apple, it's fairly affordable, is what I'll say. These things are like $700 to $800, which actually I guess now technically with where we are with inflation and stuff, that's not terrible for a decent laptop. But that was kind of my thought in that case. MVG is we would see some interesting development potentially if these things catch on being greenlit. My thing is, though, if you start having games downloaded through the app, doesn't that just open you up to like piracy issues? I'm confused about that one.
That's piracy. I mean, and I don't think that's what Apple is saying necessarily. I think they're basically saying, anything that would be considered, freeware or homebrew type stuff, or community built stuff, that would be acceptable. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to be downloading, GameCube and Wii ROMs for the Dolphin emulator, because obviously that's something that, number one, they would get in a lot of trouble over, and Nintendo would be on their ass, within 24 hours of the emulator going out there. So I think all they're basically saying is, yeah, you do have the ability to download ROMs, as long as those ROMs are legal, if they're not pirated ROMs, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think all they're really saying here is they're opening up, their store to emulation and having the ability to run emulators and ROMs on iOS, which is a good thing, because, I mean, this year, obviously, so far, emulators or emulation has been beaten up pretty good. Nintendo's obviously come in and struck down Yuzu, and there's a lot of emotion around emulation right now about what Nintendo's been doing. So this is actually a welcome change. Seeing this, it's a W for emulation. To be honest with you, that Apple is kind of on board with it now. So look forward to seeing how well it works, and if there are any limitations. I have heard there are some limitations about what you can do on iOS, as far as, I don't want to get too technical, but there's things like just-in-time compilation and things like that won't be available, but we'll see. I think this is going to be one of those things where it'll be an iterative process. Obviously, Android is much further ahead as far as emulators on their store, because they've been around pretty much since day one. But I'm excited. Am I personally going to run Dolphin on my iPhone? No, because playing games on my phone I never do anyway. But I'm very glad that it's available to people that do like mobile devices and mobile emulation.
Okay. No.
I think it's pretty good, because sorry if I missed part of the conversation, but there has been so many people trying to jailbreak their phones and stuff, and like actually screwing up their iPhones in order to sort of run these emulators, and I think that can hopefully fix that issue a lot. And then like on top of which, every iOS, if somebody hypothetically gets one of these emulators running, every single time iOS updates, it changes, so you cannot do it. So I just think it's going to make things a lot easier and hopefully better for that side of the community on iOS. And even like Mac and stuff, there's so many hoops you have to jump through every single time you want to install something. So I think hopefully that'll help things make it a bit smoother.
People are also pointing out that this seems to be in response to the lawsuit that was brought up against them by the Department of Justice. So we might even see other changes technically with Apple becoming apparently more open. So this is an interesting change, one that I think surprised a lot of people. So we'll see what other things happen.
That when you send pictures from an iPhone to an Android, they're not like 4 pixels?
I think that's something that was specifically pointed out in the lawsuit.
Oh, really? That's good. It's horrendous.
Yep. That was something specifically pointed out, as well as peer pressure in school. If you are the
Android kid, the green bubble kid. We hate those kids.
Green bubble. Okay, you do.
green bubble. No, I can't see them.
We thought there was bullying going on. We thought there was bullying.
I bullied.
Okay.
I was like, wow. Well, because you can't add new people or take people out. So every single time, you just have to make a new group chat. And it was the one guy. And you're like, why are you even here? I was here playing.
Wow. It's real.
No, I mean, that wasn't that intense. I was playing it quite a bit. But yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, they were on something.
I'll say this, John. Apple tends to be maliciously compliant more often than not. So this is good news, but to me it reads as, we'll open it up, but to suggest that we're going to get, well, I mean, like MV said, you're not going to see Dolphin or anything, allowed on this thing. It's like they're doing the sort of bare minimum here. It's kind of like there's so many examples of where Apple does this stuff, like when they headlines start coming out of how they're finally going to start supporting right to repair, but their self-repair program was just screen, very simple tools, rental tools, and batteries, and you couldn't get genuine OEM parts that would make more complicated repairs for iPhone. They just, it's a win, but it's a very small step in the right direction. Apple typically will try and be very restrictive, and even though they're allowing emulators, I would assume that on the back end for App Store policies, things are still going to get rejected. Things are still not going to be, allowed on the store, and I just assume you're not going to see a whole lot come out of this, at least initially.
Okay. Well, it's a good step in the right direction, at least. So we'll see what happens when people start just trying to put anything and everything on there, and they let you download all the Pokemon games on the Game Boy Advance emulator. We'll see how long that lasts. Let's talk about that. Microsoft again. This time, good news though. Good news. So that we also have rumor that with their Xbox Game Showcase that they've already announced that's happening this summer, and we're looking towards June for that one. Gear 6 would be there. That's a rumor that came out of once again Jeff Grubb on the Xcast. Although I feel like I've heard this multiple times from Nate in the last 4 or 5 months or something, just randomly here and there. So this also was not too surprising to hear that the Coalition is finally going to show up. And I kind of feel like Microsoft's going to have a pretty good showing this summer based on the stuff that's starting to get out there right now. But Gear 6 is one that apparently is going to show what next gen is, even though we're 3.5 years into the generation, which is a funny thing to think of. But the Coalition, very talented. I would expect them to get 60 frames per second out of Unreal Engine 5. So, MVG, you've been around multiple times next to Nate as he said these things. I think he also mentioned on the Reset era, I think, that this is going to be a big wow moment.
I think so. I mean, Coalition, obviously Gears 5 and the Hive Busters expansion that they did is some of the most incredible tech that I've seen, in the previous generation. So I think that they will show up with something very impressive here. 60 frames. I mean, that's a big deal if that is the actual truth of the matter. Which I think Coalition, they really want to learn that technology, and I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, did they not help with the Matrix demo? I thought their name was involved with that.
Yes, they did a lot of collaboration with Epic. And then they also did that that tech demo where they had the guy holding kind of the crystal.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that looked incredible.
Yeah. So, it sounds like they've spent the last few years kind of learning their craft, learning the engine, the intricacies of it, and getting familiar with it. So I think whatever they come up with over the summer is going to be impressive. Looking forward to it. Very excited to hear about the next Gears game, because I really like Gears 5 and I like Hive Busters as well, so I'm ready for a new one.
Yeah, Gear 6 I think is going to be one of those big moments for Microsoft for their next gen experience. Finally, it does feel like this generation's just been sluggish to start. So I'm hoping 2024 all the way around for Sony and Microsoft, they just have those specific games for those systems ready to roll, and they do look impressive. But
when do you think Gears 6 would come out though? Like,
I think next year,
late like holiday next year type thing. September.
I feel like we hear about it a year and a half ahead of time.
I think you're
hear about
right.
June, come out maybe next October, maybe October 2025. Although they have to be, maybe Microsoft won't care as much, but I feel like everyone is going to be kind of careful about where GTA 6 is going to land. So I think everyone's going to kind of be like, okay, we don't want to be within a week, maybe even a month proximity to GTA 6, because not only is that game going to sell a ton, which is going to suck up a lot of money from the market, if there's an online to it as well, which we assume will be there at launch, if not, maybe the following month. It might be kind of staggered launch for online. But once that comes out, that's just going to suck up a lot of people's time. So that's the tough thing, is can we get it out a month before GTA 6? That would be the best bet. So maybe September it comes out or something. Because I think GTA 6 is like an October release for 2025.
But you think Nintendo's probably cooking something for next year as well, right? Like,
oh yeah.
What if they drop a Mario Kart game in September next year?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I feel like that audience is still not quite like this. I mean, you're gonna have crossover, but Nintendo just launches their stuff whenever. Like, yeah, whatever. Here's Pokemon, GTA 6 that can come out the same day. We don't care as much, but still, it's there's gonna be some landmark releases around that time that I think Microsoft will pay attention to. Also for themselves, because they're gonna make money on GTA 6, so why crowd it up? But that's kind of my anticipation. GTA 6 big showing this summer, release next year, second half. That's good. But along with that, MVG, this is a big one. Because wait, hold on. I think Nate said something about this before too. Was it early this year? Anyway, Microsoft. They've apparently, this was from Windows Central, as it was also confirmed with Microsoft after somehow they got emails and they went to Microsoft and Microsoft said, yeah, those are our emails, and they confirmed it. So it seems like a weird timeline there of events, but almost like it's purposeful. But they have, this is according to Sarah Bond, emails getting out there and them confirming, Microsoft has set up a dedicated team at Xbox to future-proof the digital library and, as they say, build on history of delivering backwards compatibility. So they disbanded the backwards compatibility team like a year and a half, 2 years ago or something?
Yep.
It was like a year after the Series X.
It's actually, it's longer than you think. I think it was in 2021, maybe. While you keep talking, I'll find out.
Yeah. Anyway, they disbanded it, and then they're bringing them back together now to do more backwards, which once they bought Activision Blizzard, it kind of felt like, hey, you guys might want to go back and do some stuff with that, because there's a lot of legacy titles you could bring up and make backwards compatible. But they kind of took it a step further and mentioned the digital library in general. So they now have a dedicated team within Xbox just to focus on that.
So they said in 2021 that the program had ended. Now, the thing is, prior to that, with the Xbox One X, they ended it in 2019. So they have this kind of history where they'll spin it up, they'll churn out 70 or so titles, and then they'll wind it down again because they've got to a point where, number one, either the technology is at the point where they can't take it any further, and more importantly, the licensing issues that kind of surround bringing back old games, right? As we know. So to me, this sounds like the next iteration of them spinning up the backward compatibility program for the next generation of Xbox, which I think is cool. And look, to be honest, John, if the next system is an ARM-based system, which is, we've heard rumors that they're going to go to ARM and some type of hybrid cloud thing. I don't know what that entails. Then they've got their work cut out for them, right? Because we're talking about going from x86 to ARM, so there's obviously an emulation layer that needs to be built. And to make it even more complicated, will they continue to support the legacy 360 and OG stuff, right? Well, OG is x86, but 360 Power PC. So I think what I'm taking away from this is that, they want to basically try to bring everyone's back and pat library forward, right? So I think they're putting in the blocks, the pieces now to facilitate that with the next generation of Xbox. So not really a big surprise. As far as Nate and I, we talked about it back in January, and I think we kind of just threw around the question, is it time for them to bring it back? And we both agreed that it probably was. So I'm not really, surprised to hear this, announcement or this internal memo, whatever it was from Sarah Bond. But I think it's a good thing. Xbox is obviously, they've been doing this for a long time. They started back and pat on the days of the 360 back in 2006. So they have the technology. They've been working on it for a very, very long time. So I think it's great that they are, if this is to be true, which I think it is, spinning it back up again. So I'm excited. Should be good.
Yeah, I think the idea of preserving the digital library is going to be a focus for them if they are moving to something cloud related, something AI related. I think that's all stuff they want to. They once again seem to double down on the biggest technological leap ever in a generation. So everyone's still trying to put that one together. I don't think it's in terms of graphics though. I think there's a bit more to it than that. But backwards compatibility, now I'm thinking about games they can bring up with Activision Blizzard, of course, showing up here. They have the ability to all of a sudden just start dropping Call of Duties into their Game Pass service left and right. There's rumors that might be a big focus for them with the showcase this summer, where they would also show off Call of Duty Gulf War, I believe is what it's called, alongside of, hey, here's a bunch of other Call of Duties going into the service. So there's a lot that they can do, but hey, if they're releasing their system, their next-gen system, 2026, well, now's probably the time to get the backwards compatible team spun up, as you mentioned, so that they can get that figured out now ahead of time. So it's interesting. Why do they spin it up and then disband and they come back together? It seems like backwards compatibility would be something they consistently work on, but do you think they just run out of stuff to do MVG and they're like, all right, go off to other divisions?
I think so. I think ultimately it's licensing that kind of is the roadblock, right? Like they do as much as they can. Because, I've heard, I think it was Jason Ronald back when he was running the backward compatibility team, like years and years ago. He basically said every game that people have asked for, we've already looked at, and we can't do it due to technical reasons or licensing issues. So they've already kind of looked at the entire catalog. So that's kind of what I took away. Now, this was obviously before the Bethesda and the ABK acquisition. So, yeah, I mean, will there be Activision Blizzard games that do come up on BC? I think so. I mean, we're kind of half expecting that they may announce something where they bring back some older Activision titles to the back and pat program because they are available now. But yeah, I mean, they just stopped because they've kind of run out of things to do at that point. They've kind of hit a roadblock at that point.
Okay. Yeah, I figured that was probably it. But still, it's interesting that they leave and they just come right back after a year or 2 years. And they're like, all right, let's do it again. Got more stuff to put backwards compatible for it. So, but I do like the push. I do. It does make me more interested in what their next gen stuff is. If they're thinking they got to get that going now, for it being maybe, as you said, ARM based, cloud based. I don't know. It's interesting future there. So, what about Ryan? What do you think about this? They're getting more backwards compatibility. We're still asking Sony to do PS3 stuff.
When I saw this news for a second, I thought it was in reference to what a few publishers are finally doing now is having a team dedicated to what actual preservation would be for studios, which is archiving their games for now so it can be used later, archiving tools and builds and being able to retrieve it later. But hearing that it's about this for them possibly switching architectures, that's not surprising at all to me, given that would be a big problem, as MVG said. So they probably have to get a whole new emulation team together to build a new layer that is going to be carrying over a library that's now, in the thousands. We're talking about most of Xbox One, now Series S and X. But the backwards compatibility program, I mean, I always suspected that probably there's probably a lot of games that run pretty well from the layer that they built, because they built that thing for a long, like years ago on 360, starting from 360, and then initially going into Xbox One. So I presume a lot of games probably work very well, but it's licensing. Licensing is going to stop them before the technical limits, probably what I imagine. That, because they monetize the program too, so they're not actually letting you like insert the disc and you're playing it off disc. That's not what's happening in this case. But I mean, I'm always for if we can get anything old back, let's do it. So I would hope the acquisition means we're getting more titles. You would conceivably, that means there's a whole new like library that's opened up to them now. And that's a big publisher, that's a big back catalog. So I would love to see that stuff. And moreover, I'm very happy to see that there is this team put together for forward compatibility. Based on the language, like that's the concern with like, I guess the broader discussion around Microsoft platforms is, if they do the whole multi-platform thing or going completely digital, it's like, what does that mean for an owner today? But if you're buying primarily digital stuff, then this is great news.
Yeah. I'm really curious about their showcase because, I'm thinking about Call of Duty. Maybe they have some other stuff, and maybe they want to announce a roadmap even for backwards compatibility, like different titles they're working on. So that's something to think about with that one. So I'm interested.
I'm not trying to overhype because but what if they have Gears 6? Mm-hmm. They show us an updated Fable. Mm-hmm. They show us an updated Perfect Dark. And they announced some like new Forza Horizon game. That's a pretty good showcase.
Yeah, and they would have the Call of Duty stuff there.
Yep.
Perfect Dark is one that I feel like a lot of people forgot even got announced. Like, it's been a while, but
I didn't forget to do that.
No,
I'm very excited for that. I can't wait. I hope it's in good shape. So
me too. That's my worry with that.
I feel a little better about Perfect Dark when they brought on Crystal. When they brought on Crystal Dynamics on, I'm like, okay, I think they can handle this one. But Tomb Raider has to come out first, and you know what? That we might see that in June as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, like that could be at Summer Game Fest or it could be at Xbox's show. So what if Crystal Dynamics had two games to show it there? They had Tomb Raider and they also had Perfect Dark.
I could see Crystal at Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, that one wouldn't surprise me because that is Tomb Raider's Amazon published, so they might be looking at Summer Game Fest as that's the easy advertisement opportunity for us. We'll just drop it there. Because I think they've done some stuff with Jeff and them. I feel like they've done I think New World was there one time. So I feel like Amazon is familiar with Summer Game Fest and Jeff and how it all runs. So I think Crystal will be there one way or the other. But Tomb Raider, that'd be interesting to see that too. So that MVG would be a pretty good showcase.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
I have a question that is very off topic, but did you guys see the Tomb Raider's like the best franchise or whatever, or the best mascot of all time thing going around?
That was interesting. Who did that?
Iconic, and it was up against like Mario and like.
But it was like British, so
it was the British awards. I mean, Tomb Raider is a huge deal in England.
Oh, in Britain.
That makes sense.
I was trying to figure who it was. 4,000 people, too. So sample size is small.
4,000 Tomb Raider hat.
What was Let me see. What was the top? Let me see. Who were the top? Because they did like a top number of characters, right? Let me see. Or did they just do one?
I don't remember.
Okay, here we go. I got it.
It was a bunch, but like Agent 47 was like number 3. Mario was number 2. Agent 47 was 3.
I have. Let me see if there's anything else on here. Okay, here we go.
Exactly.
I like it.
Agent 47 is Hitman.
Yeah.
I got some more homework for you, Josie.
No.
I'll line you up with more games. Don't worry.
No, don't waste your time with that franchise.
Actually, I somewhat recently, a few months ago, played Hitman 2 on the GameCube, and that game is still incredibly vague and annoying at times to play. But I think Josie, that's more your generation speaking
Hitman?
there, because Hitman was. I mean, it's gotten back in like the spotlight, but it had this run where it kind of faded for a bit. But like when it first came out, and then the second one especially, it was hot again. So let me see. Okay, so Number 1 was Lara Croft. Number 2 was Mario. Number 3 was Agent 47. Number 4 was Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 5 was Sackboy. Number 6 was Pac-Man.
That makes
sense. Number 7 was Link. Number 8 was Master Chief. Number 9 was Kratos. And then number 10 was Shadowheart. Can anyone tell me what franchise Shadowheart is from?
Baldur's Gate 3. I've played it.
It wasn't for you, MG. I wanted to see the blank stares for about 10 seconds before I said Baldur's Gate 3. That's funny, though, because I saw that, I'm like, they have a Baldur's Gate 3 character in there as an iconic character after the game just came out.
Where's Doom Guy? Where's Gordon Freeman?
Doom Guy.
Where's Solid Snake? Was he in there?
Or Steve? Is Minecraft? What are we doing?
Solid Snake is number 14.
Steve's a good point.
Steve's
a real good point.
There's a lot wrong with this list.
Where do you think Pikachu placed?
20th.
That is disgusting.
No, I'm saying that's where he placed. I don't know that's where it was.
Oh, okay.
25 for the Dex entry.
Pikachu was number 12, and with what Ryan just said, apparently he should be number 1 because he just told us his Pokédex entry off the
I said 25. 25 is his national Dex entry.
Oh, sorry.
I was not going to twist it.
Sorry. Did you say what is Bulbasaur?
1 is Bulbasaur. Like,
I think it's Bulbasaur 1. Yeah. This list is
together.
Obviously.
This list is I don't know. I guess
it's very British.
It's chaotic.
It's very British.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Gives beans.
You feel like Mario would be number 1. I mean, the fact that it is number 2. Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that.
Beans on toast vibes. What the? Was I the only one that heard that?
I know. Why was it funny when Ryan said it?
Well, no, because I didn't hear you
either until he said.
She said it under her breath, like, beans on toast vibes.
And like they be posting that on social media and like they're like, oh, this shit's good. I'm like, stop posting that shit as if you're not convincing anybody that crap is good. Like, stop.
Let me see some of the super chats here. Skylar says, I miss Dreamcast guy Nate and Miss Click. I think Click mentioned coming back if OJ painted his nails, so...
Yeah, I responded. I said, I'll paint my nails black and red, Akatsuki style, and she didn't respond back, so I don't know.
You'll see Nate and Click will pop up. I'm sure you'll see Nate and Max will swing back by. Nate he's on Game & Talk, he's on Direct Xbox, he just randomly pops in on Saturdays if he's even available, so we'll get him back. This from Sokar says, just go balls to the wall with that modern Parasite Eve. Just go all out, full remake.
I'd love for a remake of that game to come out.
We'll get the Final Fantasy 17
As long as I don't mess with the story.
Brian says, "Hey guys, MVG, when's Tomba coming out? Don't forget to pre-order your copy of Tomba, everyone. It's a great game. Great app.
Brian,
great game.
I can't tell you. Sorry.
I'm trying to get you to like just break NDA on air. Well, people are excited for it, MVG. So it'll be fun when you can finally talk about it. So
it's in good hands.
There you go. We believe it. We believe it. Exciting stuff though for the Tomba fans. Tomba fans have been waiting a long time for this, so I'm glad to hear that.
It's Tomba, John, not Tomba. Tomba.
I call it Tomba.
Tomba. Tomba.
I call it Tomba.
Thank you for correcting him.
Is that what you say, Brian?
I say Tomba.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I call it Tomba.
Tomba.
Tomb Raider.
This is from Darthus, who says, question for OJ. I've played through Xenoblade 1 through 3, including extra DLC like Torna and Redeemed. Should I play through Xenogears first or Xenosaga? Thanks.
You can just, if you're going to go that far back, just start with Xenogears and then work your way through Xenosaga. But the game that you need to really play in relation to it is Xenosaga 1 through 3. If you really want to get, whatever, it would be Xenosaga. Gears just relates some of the world themes, obviously the conduit, things like that. So some of the source of how things happen. But yeah, Saga would be the game that you really would want to play. But you can start with Gears though. Gears is great.
Tomba. So it's like Tom and then a ba.
And then in Europe, it's Tombi with an I instead of an A. Did you know that?
What?
I'm serious.
That's kind of dope.
You're getting
The
too
European
complicated
version
for
of
him.
Tomba is Tombi.
Toombi?
Tombi.
Tombi. Okay. So Tijo says, saw the Mega Man section on Newswave, and I thought we'd finally be getting X9. How dare you lie to us, John? Keep up the good work and all. Yeah, there people are remaking Mega Man 4, 5, and 6, and they're just completely doing it from scratch. And they finished 4, so you can download 4 and play it on your PC. No emulator required. Nobody says, as gamers, we have to push back with our dollars. Best way to double your money is fold it, put it back in your pocket. And they say, hi, Josie. And so Sokar says, you mean games like Spot on NES or Yo Noid? I remember playing both of these. I remember Cool Spot. Do you remember that? Graham Man says, this is the Wake Up OJ.
I'm awake.
Ticho says, wouldn't the iOS emulation thing be more for like Sega releasing their own Genesis emulator and collection as one app? That's how I see it.
That's a good point. That'd be the one way I see it approved. Again, I'm just very dubious as to this approval.
So does that mean that Nintendo could release NSO if they wanted to on it, an app, and then you just download the games normally through that?
John,
That would kind of be awesome.
we've talked about this before. Nintendo will never release anything other than on their own hardware.
Oh, well.
Well, what do you mean? Like, Super Mario Run? We got a lot of mobile stuff.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying. They're not taking NSO from the Switch and putting it on PC or iOS or Android.
How many signups do you think they get first day for that on iOS?
Would they even disclose that?
It'd be something like, I feel like it'd be like a stupid number. Like millions of just immediate people like showing up for NSO. It's interesting. Although I feel like N64 games with a touchscreen would be kind of bad. This is from Helmut, who says, what happened to the chill intro music? Evan has that on his PC and we're using StreamYard. He's not here. But we'll get it worked out. Enigmatic Dream says, Apple trash is worth $2. Keep them out of gaming.
Enigmatic.
Yep, enigmatic. Apple is trash. Z says, do you think standalone consoles will ever go away completely? What about AAA games?
No.
No. I think we'll have consoles pretty much for the rest of our lives. Yeah, I think so. I mean, think about how long generations last now. 7 or 8 years. So, like, 5 or 6 generations, left for some of us. And so I think I think they'll be around for us. Yeah.
So, like in 100 years, Josie, don't forget us, okay? Like when you're still alive somehow because of modern technology.
Yeah.
Remember the Spuncast, okay?
Oh yeah, shout out the OGs. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Spyro Jones says, yeah, but MVG, when is Sly Cooper 5 coming out?
I don't know anything about that game. I have to ask my friend Special Nick on that one. I think he knows more about that than I do.
Graham Man says, MVG, what's an easy engine to make games solo?
Game Maker is a good one. I even would say if you just want to just get stuck in to learn the basics of game development, not Clubhouse Games, what's it called? What's the thing on Nintendo that they released to build your own games?
Game Garage.
Game Builder Garage, yeah. That's a good one.
I do want to, I'll give a quick shout out to this. That game, Castaway, is made in Game Maker.
Yep. Game Maker's legit.
I was a little surprised.
Some commercial games run on Game Maker.
Yep, and it is free. It is a free thing.
It's free on the PC. If you want to obviously port to consoles, there's a license involved, but a lot of developers, they'll start on the PC, they'll get their game out on Steam as like a wish list thing and, but basically self-publish it on Steam. If it does well, then obviously then they have more leverage to bring it to consoles. Yeah, Game Maker is a good choice.
Then DC Fat Cast. The super chat is sponsored by Factor. Thank you, DC Fat Cat. Thank you. Let me go around here. I do have to check Streamlabs as well. Let me start with, as we do some outros here, I'll start with Ryan. Ryan, where can everyone find you?
Over on YouTube at Mystic Ryan, covering PlayStation news every Friday. Thank you for having me, John.
Good to have Ryan here. Just another week or two, and people believe that you're a recurring member. So good stuff.
Yeah, number one guest.
Yeah, let me go over to Josie. Oh, wait, actually, hold on. I'll go to MVG. MVG, where can everyone find you?
You can find me not babysitting kids at YouTube, Modern Vintage Gamer. I have a video out on Monday about the Nintendo closure of the network for Wii U and 3DS and the Pretendo replacement. So check out the channel. Thanks for having me.
Josie.
You can find me. Yes. Actually, I just hit 15,000 subs on this stream, so thank you, everyone. That was pretty hype.
Wow.
So thank you.
Awesome.
But yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Josie Woe. I do a bunch of Nintendo stuff. I stream. I'm going to start streaming a little bit more, so that's fun. And yeah, Nintendo is really what I do. I'm also on Game and Talk. Check out Game and Talk. It's a podcast. It's really good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I see you keep streaming a lot of the classic games.
Yes, because I realized I'm gonna play them anyway, so I might as well stream them and like hang out, you know, and like if I get lost, I can ask the chat. Which is helpful. Yeah, it's been fun.
And what about OJ?
Yeah, you can find me right here on YouTube. I cover Nintendo Switch and RPG stuff. Pretty much got RPG news out almost every single day, and I stream pretty much daily as well. Got a cool bonus stream that we're doing tomorrow for the community as well, so if you want to come hang out, talk about video games, RPGs, what's coming out, all that good stuff. And yeah, I've got some Wii U stuff planned for next week, Monday, online gaming and stuff, like as it shuts down, so if you guys want to come by and hang out and play some old Wii U games online, I'll be doing that too. Players.
Yeah, definitely check out OJ's stream tomorrow, or Sunday, especially since, is that the afternoon he was streaming?
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to try to stream in the morning my time, so like afternoonish or so for East Coast peeps.
There you go.
Yeah,
People hanging out, looking for something to do ahead of WrestleMania. Check out OJ's stream.
Absolutely, yeah.
Look at see Ryan Talks Mod says Mystic should be a regular. We'll look into it. We'll see what we can do. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Let me make sure. I said I would check Streamlabs real quick. Adam says, MVG, with limited run games doing more and more physical releases of Xbox One Series X games, will this potentially open up the door for getting a physical release of Diablo 2 Resurrected? Oh, wow.
Ooh. I don't really know. I don't work on the physical publishing side of the company. I'm just the developer, so I don't know. Sometimes they make announcements that I'm like, whoa, even I didn't see that coming. So, yeah, it's hard for me to answer that question.
Yeah, MVG is the Carbon Engine guy. So whenever you see a game get announced and at the end says Carbon Engine, that is MVG. He's getting these things there, and they're stamping them on the disc. So that's their job. He gets the thing started. So, and he does not tell us anything. So we're usually the ones who are like, whoa, MVG was working on that the whole time. So that's usually how it goes. Geez, John O coming in big at the end here with the support. John O said, good to see y'all. Just popping in for a sec. Keep up the good work. Tell Dreamcast guy he missed a great at grand opening downtown. Take care, everyone.
You gotta do the Dreamcast guy, John. You gotta do it.
Dreamcast guy. He misses a great at grand opening downtown. Take care, everyone. Shout out to John O. Yeah, John, if you get out to too many games, let us know. If you just swing by the chat here, let us know before too many games so we can meet up with you there. This came out last year. It was pretty cool to get to meet everyone in person, especially John O. Shout out to John O, though, for the support. And I think that's everything here. Checked all that. Checked Streamlabs. Yep. Hellman, Z, Spyro Jones, Grandman, DC Fat Cat, John O. Okay. Shout out. And that's going to do it here for Spawncast episode 362. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I see Jordan Fringe was in the chat. We're going to get Jordan back here pretty soon.
Hey, what's up, Jordan?
Be exciting. And hey, everyone enjoy. Again, I know there's a lot of crossover in gaming and wrestling. Enjoy WrestleMania. I know it's like the Super Bowl for a lot of people, so have fun with that. We will see you guys next Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Gentlemen, welcome to Spawncast episode 361. It feels good. Good weekend. Good weekend, I think. We got Easter right around the corner tomorrow. It's good food and stuff coming up, I'm sure. Bit of time off. People like Josie, for example, is not with us tonight. She's actually traveling, so she'll be back next weekend. But I do have some people who joined me here for the Easter weekend, the holiday weekend. Let's see. We'll start with MVG.
Hello.
It's good to have MVG here.
Good to be here.
I got some questions for you tonight, actually, about some industry stuff when it comes to, like, the Embracer thing was a little surprising, I think, for a lot of people to see that transaction. But also, I was curious about some of this Nintendo stuff because it was contractors and other things involved there. So I'm just curious to see your take on some of that. So I think we have some good topics here for you, MVG, with us tonight. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good. We have Mystic Ryan. Ryan is here.
Good to be back.
Nice string of appearances here for Ryan. So people won't believe you're like a member until like we're like 10 weeks in or something at this rate. But
that's all right.
Yeah, it's good. I like the background. Look at Stellar Blade up back there. Did you play Stellar Blade?
Just finished it.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's like an hour and a half.
Okay, good. I was concerned that I was
John's
just really
relieved is now someone else other than him.
Someone else played it. Good. Awesome. Good stuff. Great. All right, cool. So Ryan's here. Chat about some PlayStation stuff as well, obviously. And then we have OJ, Hold Up Pre-Show.
Yeah, pre-show was good. Yeah, played Stellar Blade as well. And so, yeah, definitely excited to talk about that and other stuff as well.
MVG's the only one here with the PS5 that didn't play it. Man. Oh, all right. That's fine.
I heard MVG's wife wouldn't allow him to play the game. Is that true?
There were people online who were like, I don't want to have that up on the TV.
Is that true, MVG? I heard a rumor. Is that the truth? I think it's kind of true, bro.
Now, you should hear some of the stuff Sean will be yelling on his TV, I'm sure, when his wife walks through. So Stellar Blade's like some PG stuff at this point. We have Evan.
Yep.
Fresh off beating Dragon's Dogma 2, actually.
Yep.
What'd you think?
It was good. I know a lot of people are going to hate it because it's not a simple video game.
I mean,
so.
people already doing that. They haven't played it yet. But,
Oh, yeah.
But you said it was like a solid 50 to 60 hour game before you played through it.
Yep. A lot of exploring for the 50 hours and then a drive home for the 60.
What would you give it just as, like, I know ratings are stupid, but
General
what would you
or
give?
personal?
Just like like your own personal, like 1 to 10. What would you give?
Personal, it's a 9 for me because it
Okay.
does things no other games are really doing right now.
Well, what's the other scale? What's general? What does that mean?
General is probably a 6 or a 7 for people who lean more to like the more basic of games that are out there and prefer that as their approach. For instance, like one of the key things in this, quests aren't what you think they are. Like there's so many ways to finish a quest that they don't tell you, and you have to kind of figure it out as you go. People hate that. Like they want to be told where to go and what to do. So it's just one of those things.
Talking about the Ubisoft waypoint droppers, where they just have all this stuff you just run.
Not even just Ubisoft.
You don't even think about it.
From as old as World of Warcraft vanilla and before, it's like that's been the way gamers play. So this is a recommendation in your book, though. Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. How was your performance all the way through, though, real quick?
It was weird until they patched. Like it would have occasional slow moments, but then I just was smooth for the last whole chunk that I played, which was awesome.
Oh, good stuff. They put a patch out that like just on consoles you can just cap it at 30 now. You don't have to deal with the weird variable.
Oh, they did a cap.
Whatever.
Yeah.
They did, yeah. So the patch they put out. Also, you can turn off ray tracing, but in the notes it says this will not help much with performance if you turn off ray tracing. So it's obviously CPU
Why didn't
down.
they just do the cap from the beginning? I don't understand.
I mean, it was pretty clear they maybe could have, because I mean this patch came out like 6 days after the game dropped, so it just happened though. But yeah, so if you have the PS5 or Xbox Series version right now, you look in your options, there's a cap. You probably want to turn it on because that frame rate chart was all over the place from what I was seeing. The Glasses 61 became a YouTube member. Shout out to the Glasses 61. So maybe I will check out Dragon's Dogma 2 when I get a chance. But there's a lot hitting right now. There is. We'll get into some of that though. But I do want to, of course, give a shout out to some of the members over on the Spawncast network. Of course, you can check that out, linked down below, if you'd like to support all the different shows. And of course, the Game Orb. It's been sticking with us every month now. The Game Orb. Check their YouTube channel out down in the description, as well as their Twitch channel, where they do all kinds of gameplay clips, and they also explore different conventions. And of course, there'll be many coming up this year. So shout out to the Game Orb, and big sponsor for the shows. Then going down to the producers, we have executive producers John O, who I'll be curious to see if John O is able to make it out to too many games again this year coming up, because we'll have some more people from the show out there. So we'll catch up with you if you're out there. Joshua Butts, Mr. Joby, William Hogue, and then Trent A, our sole producer over there. So shout out to the supporters over on the Spawncast network. Now I did want to jump into the Xbox, but you know what? I think what we're going to start with here, we're just going to start with Stellar Blade, because Ryan just finished it. It's in his background right now. OJ had a chance to check it out. I had a chance to check it out. And this game is out like 1 month from now, I think. I think it's like the 26th of April, yes. So that is the last Friday in April. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So, yeah, it's out 26th. And they had previously dropped the demo. And they took it back. And then they gave it back to us like 2 weeks later or something. But it is out now. People can go check it out. It was about 16 gigabytes, to download, so it was pretty quick. And the entire game seems to be mostly the opening, and your save data will then transfer to the full game. So this is kind of like a head start. And it appears, Ryan, you said it took an hour and a half or so for the demo, so it's...
Yeah, about an hour.
Yeah. So it'll at least get you started. You'll see some of the different pieces of gameplay and elements to that. But Ryan, what do you think of this so far?
I liked it a lot. It's weird. It definitely feels a bit closer to like a Sekiro or a Souls game, just in that you can't like run into this button mashing.
Mm-hmm.
You're like pretty diligent approaching enemies and going for those perfect parries, which I found the window for that was super tight. Like I had to restart a few times.
I felt that too. I felt that too. It's very like the margin's very small. You're right, Ryan. I've noticed that. If you in the skill tree, I did see that they have skills that you unlock that widen that way.
I unlocked that right away. I was like, well, I need that. Like, I'm not great, so I'm like, I think that's the one skill I need. So when I opened that up, whatever sort of percentage modifier that was set to, like, that made it a little bit more, easier for me. But I mean, I like that. I like that it was just, it's not like this chaotic combat. Like, it's not like a DMC or a Bayonetta, which it appeared as though that might have been how it was going to play, but you just never know until you start playing these things. But I like the vibe of it too. Like, the music was really hitting for me. I like the sci-fi, just sort of over-the-top sequences. Like, I was really vibing with that game.
The music was funny because it has like that post-apocalyptic feel to it. Kind of the setting where you're playing Helldivers 2, are basically dropping to the ground in a pod, right? You get out of there and everything's exploding around you, and all of a sudden just like this like electronica pop music starts playing in the background while you're running around, and
that's
kind of funny. It's kind of funny the way it's interesting.
I love that about it. I mean, I'm so happy they didn't go like the movie soundtrack type of situation, right? Like the post-apocalyptic movie. Like, it's a very different like vibe to it, So I like that about the music in particular.
Yeah.
The combat is interesting though. You're right, Ryan. It's slow. It's slower than it looks, or more purposeful, I guess you say, than it looks. Because when I first saw it, I was picturing Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, something like that. But it has more weight to it, to where if you go and you just start mashing square, you'll just die. Like the thing in front of you will just wipe you out. It could just be like a regular, like mid-tier enemy you run up to, and it takes them a couple of hits and you're out, like just like that. It's over. So they have a parry, which is basically pressing block at the right time, which is L1. and you also have a dodge. But you're right, the dodge, at least for me, the perfect dodge when they initially started, the window was smaller than I was expecting. The block was a little more forgiving because if you miss it, you'll just block instead of getting that perfect parry. But they do this thing where they shift the picture a little bit. It goes kind of like gold and yellow, sort of, just to let you know you hit that, and then you can counter, you can teleport behind them with certain skills. But the game itself, in motion, I think looks good if you get the hang of it. If you're not, you're just gonna it's gonna look bad. You're just gonna get slapped around real quick. But what'd you think, OJ, when you started it up?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that it might not play like a DMC or Bayonetta because of the initial trailer. Like, the animations and everything just didn't seem that type of way. I mean, it looked fast and all sorts of stuff, but from the very beginning I talked about how, I think I said, like, what's happening to this game? Like, well, they're taking more time to refine it. It's not going to be like those other games, and that's exactly what happened. Now that we're playing it and people are like, oh, wow, it's really different, I'm like, okay, that's cool. It doesn't have to play like DMC or Bayonetta. It feels a bit stiff in that regard, right? Like, it feels a bit stiff, or even like compared to like Nier Automata, like even compared to a game like that, feels definitely way more stiff than those games. So, I mean, that's not my favorite thing about it, but what I do like is, like Ryan said, the music is awesome. I do think that the combat has a lot of depth, right? There's going to be a bunch of cool different skill trees. I think there's 6 skill trees. There's a couple locked, and I think there's 6 overall. So there's going to be a lot of depth where you can build your character up. I think that the story is going to be interesting enough. The graphics are good. The performance is good. You know, it's 60 frames. There's 2 different 60 frames, or at least, was it 50 to 60 frames for the
They have like a 30 FPS mode in there. Who's
they have
using that? Come on.
Which you should probably not use that. I mean, maybe if you're playing on story mode. But if you want to, you want to actually do all like the secret bosses and be good at the game, you probably want that extra response time. But yeah, the 60 frames is good. The performance mode or the graphics mode or whatever is really good. They have a lot of options. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun game, and I love the character. I think she's cool. He was cool, and I think the setting is dope too. The art is really well done. Like, how the characters look and everything is really awesome. The outfits and all that stuff is really dope. The environment is cool too. So I'm enjoying it. This is like my first, big game for this year, at least new game. I'm talking about Persona or whatever. This is the first one that I'm super like really excited for to play this year. Like on PS5 at least right now.
There's a bit of there was a point of contention around the main character. That seems to be like what a lot of the discussion is online right now.
And I don't understand it, because we've had Tomb Raider, we've had Bayonetta. Bayonetta came out in 2009 in Japan, 2010 here in the US. Bayonetta is literally the exact. She takes off her clothes to do Demon Wicked Week. Like, literally, she's naked half the time, or not half the time, but naked a lot of the time, and that's fine. So I don't understand where all this is coming from. Like, I don't get it. Like, we've had who else? We've had many other characters.
Nier 2B.
Yeah, 2B. Like, we've had. I mean, I don't understand this nonsense that's going on with her. Like, oh well, she's not real. It's just a video game. So.
You mentioned the options though, OJ. There are some interesting options in this game which are kind of funny. I don't really know why this is an option, and maybe it's you get a lot of inventory later on in the game. There's, by default, you have to press a button to pick stuff up.
Yeah, you can change it to auto pickup in the menu, which I did that.
Oh, you can do that.
That's what I did too.
Yeah,
I
you can change. Yeah.
Right away, I was like, why do I have to hit a button for this?
Yeah, the button. Like, basically anything that drops currency, gear, and you gotta press is like R2 or something. Why do I have to do that? So I checked the options, and you can just toggle it on to just auto pick up. So it's odd that was the case, but maybe. Like in Rise of the Ronin, they just throw stupid amounts of gear at you. Maybe that happens later on, and you just want to turn it off. Like, I don't need any more of these hair clips or something, the different accessories they give you. And the other one that I thought was kind of funny is you can change the length of her hair. And I thought about that for a minute, and I was like, maybe that gets in the way. So I put it to short, and it did help actually. And I'm having like all this hair everywhere. So it sounds funny, but it did help. I changed it to like short. Yeah, like a little ponytail now, so that helped.
I'll tell you what I didn't like about it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Platforming was really clunky.
It feels stiff a little bit. That's part of it, yeah.
You're right, very stiff. And there was more of it than I thought there would be in there. And I'm like, this game is not doing platforming and climbing very well. So for them to be doing this much of it was like kind of annoying. Like going across those like ledges in like the midsection, and then like the ladder and the sort of jumping from pole to pole. Like none of this feels good. Like I'm missing these. I'm falling. There's no way to sort of like the game doesn't sort of snap against like an angle to shimmy across. Like it's very awkward. And I'm like this is maybe the worst part of the game for me.
And platforming in a lot of these games, like these action adventure games,
they're all bad.
They're all
nobody
bad.
Gets it right.
Like nobody really gets it right, and the only time that it can actually somewhat work is when you have powers like Bayonetta. You can transform into like a bat and stuff, or like you can transform into like a panther. She can jump really high or climb up stuff, right? That's the only way it works. Because if you don't have that stuff, it's just so weird and awkward half the time in a lot of these games. But yeah, this one, I felt that as well too.
Yeah.
That did feel like a part that they just had to add something for variety. So she'll be swinging from bars for some reason. I don't know. It did seem kind of out of place, and it seemed almost at times like the game didn't really understand what you were trying to do going up the ledges, and that's I think going to be the weak point if there's a lot of that in there, because they try to hide stuff. Like you find things on the ground that will work to, if you get 3 of them, increase your health or increase your energy, which I believe is called beta. You have to find these things, so you will be probably doing some platforming and exploring through separate paths away from the main one. But I think it's a strong start. Like it does at least have me very interested in the main game when it comes out. I'm still not sure about the story necessarily. Like I'm sure there'll be twists and turns and them explaining a bit more about the backstory, but it does feel like it's this massive epic scale kind of event that's happened, and I don't feel like I'm that invested in it yet.
So I didn't feel very compelled to like care about what was going on.
Yeah, there's just like, oh cool, I'm doing all kinds of fun combat and swinging around, jumping. Yeah, like that's really what was pulling me in there. So I guess in the full game, as you go through, you'll meet more characters. And
I think I may be a little bit more of a sucker for the post-apocalyptic storylines where humanity's like, we've seen it a million times, right?
Yeah,
I guess I kind of like those.
The heavy sci-fi elements in there are very interesting too. So.
Yeah. Like the vibes are cool. Like Ryan said, the vibes are just awesome.
The vibes said, man, it's gonna be like early anime, like 90s, thousands, or like Toonami, or just name any of that stuff. Like just the music was like, oh my god, I can really get down with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stories like what do they? I don't know. It's like that typical like, oh, it's a mix of sci-fi, post-apocalyptic. Like Eve's looking at all these like things that she doesn't understand, like a map and a library, and like, all right, we've kind of seen this, time and time again. So I'm not sure if they're really going to be able to do anything that's interesting this time around.
Well, I'm sold on it. April 26th. We'll see if we get MVG on the Stellar Blade train at some point.
Maybe. I'm playing the Quarry right now on Game Pass.
Why are you playing the? Is it because Sean's playing the Quarry? You're like,
no. I really liked Until Dawn, and Sean did kind of get me a little bit excited about the game. I do like Until Dawn. I never played the Quarry, so thought I'd decide to check it out.
I gotta do that too.
It's a good time, man. I mean, it's not as good as Until Dawn, but it is pretty fun. You should at least run through it once.
Okay. You like it, MVG though, the Quarry?
Yeah, good game. It's a good game. Game.
I didn't play Quarry. I played Until Dawn. Maybe
so the game ain't that great though. If you want to buy it yourself.
Well, I mean,
if it's a good game, I already know what that means.
It is a good game. The problem is you'll beat it once. You may want to play through it another couple of times to get some different endings and stuff. But like, I mean, once you've beaten the game, that's it pretty much.
Yeah. You didn't do like multiple Until Dawn playthroughs, did you?
Because I did a couple. I think I did 2 or 3 maybe Until Dawn, because I really liked that game a lot. It was a good time.
Well, I haven't played the Quarry. It feels like a spur of the moment playthrough for Sean and MVG, but hey, that's the idea of Game Pass. Stuff pops up, you try it, you end up liking it.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So, yeah, Stellar Blade coming up about a month from now. I'll be picking it up. Seems like Ryan will probably pick it up. OJ will probably pick it up. And we'll try to get MVG to pick it up. So we'll see. Not a lot happening in April, though, in terms of games. So I think Stellar Blade's kind of landing in a good spot. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of attention on it. So
real quick on this one, though. Do you think maybe they should have waited a little bit on the demo? Maybe? Like they have a beta.
You mean like released it a week before or something like that?
Yeah, maybe a couple weeks before, but maybe they want the pre-order numbers, so maybe that's probably part of it. Give it some time for pre-orders, but I don't know. I just wanted to get your thoughts on. Not saying that it's bad that we get the demo sooner. I mean, that's obviously cool, but I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on
it. It could be the pre-order thing. That wouldn't shock me. Just try to get people pushed over because they do as soon as you're like started up, it's like purchase it here, right away. Here's the digital deluxe version. Go here. And
probably makes sense to have it about a month before then.
I don't know if it's a Stellar Blade thing, but more so a broader trend that we're seeing. But I'm kind of surprised how often we're getting demos in general, whereas like 5-6 years ago, like they were really not a thing anymore, and a lot of publishers at the time were not open about this, but we've had anecdotes occasionally where publishers were like, we don't want to put demos out there because we can just sell the game immediately, not tip people off to maybe a game that they don't want to play. And I'm starting.
I feel like there was an interview with that where I was worried.
So before your point, what I assume is happening is that because there's so much saturation nowadays with just the sheer volume of games coming out.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yes, I'm like I think it's kind of come back around where it's like we want people to just play it, so that way we have that mind share with consumers since there's just so much crowded releases, and now I think the sort of return rate on that is maybe higher than it was when demos weren't advantageous to do.
Yeah.
I am curious, MVG. Would you be able to, if you had to release a demo for a game, if we'll just say the publisher, whoever came to you, was like, you got to release a demo for this game. What actually goes into that? Because I feel like most people have no idea what it takes to make a demo or get it verified, certified on a shop and put it out there.
Well, getting demos through certification is a completely different process than a full game. Obviously the hardware maker will still test the game, but because it's a demo, it's not as stringent, right? The certification rules, right? But I mean, there still has to be some type of minimum kind of checks and balances that you need to get done. But I mean, as far as a demo goes, I mean, ultimately the developer just picks out a really small subsection of the main game, carves it out, usually maybe the first level of the game, and then when you approach the end of that game, end of the level, then you just pop up some type of screen with a purchase button to the full game or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, demos, I think, to Ryan's point, they're becoming a lot more popular now because, man, honestly, you have one bad game. We've seen studios literally close, when things don't go well. I think it's advantageous that you do provide some type of demo for a game, especially when there is some buzz around it, but you really just want to make sure that your audience is going to like the game. I think having a demo up front is a pretty smart move right now. And, especially given the landscape of video games in 2024.
I feel like whenever I see a preview come out, like we just had one for Visions of Mana, I'm expecting a demo for that game, because they talk about playing basically a demo at PAX East, and in my mind I'm thinking, is that what we're going to play a few weeks before it releases, especially with Square Enix. So whenever I hear that,
getting the demo. That's 100% getting the demo.
Yeah, I expect it from them.
Yeah, I would too.
I kind of like this trend, though. I like getting these demos just to see how the game plays, or maybe it can turn my opinion as to what I've seen in the media for it. And I mean, Stellar Blade is one where I went into it and I was not expecting to play that way, and I'm interested. So I think that's a good move. And honestly, it's good for the consumer anyway because they can try the game out. It's one thing to go into a game and be like, I already know the lore, it's a sequel, I'm good. It's another when it's a new IP and you have to kind of be sold a bit more on it. So that is I think, a good trend, and I hope we continue that way. I do want to move over to the Xbox Series X all digital. As they said, Ryan, adorably all digital.
Boo.
Back with the Xbox Brooklyn leak.
It's not a cylinder though.
No, this is interesting. This, I think, caught some people off guard because we were picturing the Amazon Alexa case, and we got the Xbox Series X without a disk drive and eject button, and now it's just the all white. It's Xbox Series S coloring. So it's weird because that feels. I think Nate used the word almost like lower effort, although lower effort. With a console release, it's hard to really put that tag on something that takes so much to get out there in the world. But it doesn't feel like they went as serious as what we were expecting them to with Brooklyn. Now, this came way of Xputer, who had images that got out there of this thing, and they were very low quality images. Like, you could tell they were like little thumbnail things. They blew them up because all the lines were all jagged and messed up and stuff. But it gave us indication as to what we're looking at here, and the belief is that they could be announcing this thing through a press release, maybe ahead of their showcase, or just at their showcase they announce it, because I think it was UMVG who reminded me of this. The series or the Xbox 360e system, they announced and launched immediately.
They did, day. Remember
that happens often.
Yeah.
When it's like kind of a very soft revision, and the reason why we get these like spy shots right away is because they're like coming off the line, or they're just starting to get out there. So I'd be shocked if it was not something where they announced this and it's like, hey, next week, or it's at retailers now, or whatever. We're gonna see this thing very soon, probably.
That's interesting.
You guys remember the DS Lite? Sorry, you guys remember that?
That too.
Yeah. Oh, is that the which one? Which one did we get where they denied it and then it showed up anyway? Like
yeah, the DS Lite. They're like, oh yeah, there's no DS. And like the next day, they're like, hey, here's a DS Lite. It's coming out like next week.
Everything. Multiple PlayStations, Nintendo's, Xbox. It happens so often. This is what they do. Yeah.
Do you think this thing's even going to go to retail? Because I almost wonder if this is going through their website. Like, it's it. You just buy their website. We haven't. How often do we even see systems in stores anymore? It feels like that's almost a rarity. I was at the Walmart near my house, and the Nintendo Switch case was full of Pop Secret. Popcorn.
Delicious.
It's very weird. They don't have systems to put in there.
The bigger question is this going to be a phase out? Will they discontinue this console?
Probably.
That's what I mean. I mean, if they're going to keep manufacturing the Disc 1, and that would be available at retail in the interest of some retailers still offering physical games, or is it going to be a proper phase out, and this will be the and I assume it's going to be like a MSRP cut, like now it'll always be available for $450 or something if they want to get a little more aggressive with that.
But if this is just their Xbox going forward, by next year the Series X with the disc drive is gone.
It is. It has to be. Out. I mean, they've been very clear on the way that they're heading. We saw the leak slides from the court case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously Brooklyn, this, I guess, Phil did say things have changed. I mean, is this their way of saying things have changed? Because we're not sticking it inside a cylinder, it's just the same hardware in the same case that's painted white. I mean, this is the way Xbox is heading. We're kind of watching this unfold, in front of our very eyes, but they've always been very clear about the direction they're heading. So I do think that this will ultimately replace the Series X with a disc drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know kind of the writing's on the wall, but it's just so disappointing still. The writing has been on the wall for such a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still disappointing. It's just that the typical Xbox customer has been more and more digital, so
yeah,
I just don't want it to happen.
But what's the split, right? Let's say the split's like 20% physical and 80% digital. Can we agree on that? That would be.
I mean, I think it might be more digital than that, but I'll go with that.
I think that's
85-15. It doesn't matter. Even if there's like 2 million people in the Xbox ecosystem out of like 40,000 units sold, there's 2 million that embrace physical media. You're basically telling those people to piss off and go to the competition. You're basically telling them, go buy a PlayStation because we have a disc drive solution for you. I think they still have to figure that out. Like, I get the fact that yes, we are going to an all digital future, and more people are embracing digital. It's still a middle finger to those people that, number one, have invested in your brand for such a long time, and number two, more importantly, you're taking an option away that was previously there, and you're not really giving your customers anything of benefit in return. Now, you may say, well, we're going to get like some more storage. I mean, okay, but you're literally taking an option away to play games with. So that's the part I feel like is just very, very weird to me that they're going down this path. If it's true.
Historically, they've kind of done it. I mean, one of their last consoles was that online check-in system, and when asked about it, they were like, "Oh, you can play the 360 instead if you want." So, like, it's in their blood.
That's such a bad PR. That's like the worst of the worst, though, as far as their PR language goes.
That was pretty bad.
I mean, that's like Ken Kutaragi or Jack Tretton. You could like do a second job to afford a PlayStation 3 kind of language. That's bad.
Yeah,
Those constant reminders of the disconnect between the people at the high end at companies and everyone buying their stuff.
Yeah. You remind me of that. Yeah, get another job. That's hilarious.
It's weird though. MVG brings up an excellent point, which is like this disconnect with the customer base. You know, the Xbox customer right now, a lot of them are primarily digital, but there's still a split there, a percentage of, even if we're being generous, of 20%, which I think is actually probably a good neighborhood to be in. It's still millions of people. And what concerns me is not even so much the benefits of physical right now, but it's a matter of, for anybody right now that buys and plays on Xbox and does choose to buy a disc, the next hardware. If they're cutting it off now, you're essentially telling somebody that buys physical right now and can still do it on a Series X that doing that is not a good idea, because then that disc has nowhere to go on the next machine. You know, how are you going to validate that license on the next console? And that's, for a dedicated customer, that's bothersome to me.
Yeah.
Not even so much the like in the here and now. If you have a Series X, you're in the clear. I don't think you are in the clear, because now you have like this conscious decision to make every time you buy a disc game on Xbox.
I agree.
Yeah, they'd have to figure out how to get people. Would they even bother with that? Get people's physical copies to digital somehow? Because they play around with patents to try to figure that out. But to my understanding, the idea was you go into a Microsoft store, stack physical games.
There was a report on it, because weren't they trying to take over GameStop storefront to be kind of like a second Microsoft storefront?
The idea of subsidizing these Xbox sales, and they also came up with that Xbox One SAD system that they were going to try.
But why would you do that, though? Why would you take something that you actually own and you're given back an entitlement? That's not my words. That's what Phil Spencer says.
They don't even say own.
He uses the word entitlement. Why would I give them something that I own that they cannot take from me because I purchased it and it's a physical product? Give it in to get some bullshit digital entitlement to play a game, and in 10 years' time potentially has the risk of getting completely just removed off the store for any number of reasons. Like, that just does make no sense to me. It makes zero sense to me why you do that.
Yeah, I just I feel like this system is a hard sell anyway. I don't really know why you would buy this thing, like, at all. I'm trying to come up with a reason why someone would look at it and say, okay, well, that's the one I'm getting, over a Series X that might just be stocked somewhere, and it's like, why? Either this thing has to be significantly cheaper, it has to be, or they have to roll in with like 2 terabytes plus something else with it. They gotta make the deal really, really good for that to be appealing, because otherwise, you just buy the Series X that has a disk drive, and at the very least, bare minimum, you got a Blu-ray player. Like, out of it, I don't know, it just seems like a very strange thing to bring to market, but I will say, it reminds me so much of that Xbox One S all digital, the SAD, that I feel like when I get this thing, so I'm going to pick it up to open it up, it's just going to be a blank spot. Like, they'll just pull the drive out like they did with the SAD. They even left the connectors were still there for the disk drive with the SAD, to the point where I was able to connect it and have it make the eject noise, even though it's all digital system.
John, I think that's what you need to do with the new Series X that comes out. Basically, I feel like the ports for the drive are still in there, and you could just swap in a drive from a working Series X or something and pair it up. I bet you get it to work, or at least get it to like take a disc or something.
That's probably why there's no chassis redesign, because it's the same shell, and they're just taking
Yep, same plat. I mean, they obviously dyed it a different color, with it being lining up more with the Series S, which is interesting. Is that so? We have a Series S that's now they've changed that. That was the 512 gigabyte was white. Now that is a 1 terabyte black, and now they've taken Series X and moved that from black now to white. So they've kind of like changed the color.
You think they would do it as a gray, just to be like the halfway marker? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is the 512 phased out, John? Is it like
I think it quietly has kind of been. I don't really see that sold as often. You see it like stupid cheap at some of these places because they just probably have a bunch of them. But I feel like Microsoft has been pushing the 1 terabyte S quite a bit now. Like that's what they're trying to get in front of people.
And check this out, guys. For those just looking at this from a whole thing, like Persona 3 Reload, right? Just came out not too far ago. $40 physical right now on sale. $70 in the PSN store or Game Pass or whatever, or $70 if you want to buy the game outright. But it's $40 physical right now.
That's a good segue to the next story.
$40. I mean, if you want it, so that's the point of having options as a consumer. Nothing wrong with digital. I get digital games too, but sometimes people can't wrap their brain around options. It's just to have the option is better to not have the options. If you want to have the option to get it cheaper, or if you want to have digital and take advantage, you can do both, and that's what keeps things balanced. You can't just have one, and that causes issues. At least for me, it caused a lot of issues like MVG, and everyone's already stated. I don't want to pile on top of what we've already said a million times, but that's the problem.
That balance.
You need the balance. Yeah. You need the balance.
Well, Phil wants to have multiple storefronts.
Well, let me ask you this real quick, Ryan. Just very quickly. If we get handheld systems from Microsoft and Sony, people are real excited about the prospect of them both making handhelds. Obviously Sony because it's like, oh cool, what are they going to do after the beta if they really are coming back to the space? I don't know how there's physical media if we have handhelds.
No.
There's no physical media, John.
That would, to me, either accelerate the digital adoption rate, like heavily, or they would have already made the jump to all digital by then.
Well, that definitely, yeah. I mean, there's zero chance of that happening, even for PlayStation, because it's going to be a PlayStation 4 basically, and maybe playing some. So that's 2 physical mediums for PS4. You're not going to have a disk drive on this thing. They're not going to just start printing another separate version SKU of no chance.
And I would be shocked if the handheld was incredibly popular this time if it was just, hey, you could play your PS6 games, but on this handheld, obviously scaled down to that.
If it's native, yeah.
Screen or something. If it's right there and it's native, I feel like that would be incredibly popular for some. It might even eclipse their box that you put on your TV. I don't know, but at that point, that would definitely accelerate the digital push. Like there are people I'm sure who have the Switch now who are just like, well, I don't really want to carry cartridges around all the time, so I got the digital version so I can put it on my SD card. So
I think the other thing that complicates it is that they offer discs. You know, Nintendo's like a big part of their business is still physical media. They're still number one with physical media. So the next Switch is absolutely going to take cards.
Oh no, it will. It will.
But it's like, for Sony, it's like they have a home console with Blu-ray discs. Mm-hmm. But if they're going to do a portable, it's still going to be that platform. So it's like there's a conflict of offering 2 physical mediums for the same kind of game. Like they're just not going to do it. So
exactly.
In that case, that's where it sort of splits off.
It's interesting. People are very excited about the handheld prospect, but then I feel like a lot of people haven't considered the idea that may signal, okay, the only way to make this work is we got to go to a heavy digital reliance for this stuff then. So it's I don't know. I mean, I guess it could be worse. You could get the proprietary memory stick from Sony for like $600 or something. So
you know, it would be cool if they had some kind of solution where it would be like completely internet based. You'd have to be logged in, but if you buy a disc on PlayStation for your home console, and as long as that's inserted into your home console, and you can log into PSN from the handheld and authenticate that way, then they grant you a play session right then and there.
That's the only idea.
That's the only thing I would consider is how they would try and, not like have that roadblock of pushing digital, but
kind of like tap like the idea of remote play for 30 seconds, not even just to be able to verify that it's there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it would be like because you basically you'd have to download it natively, but it would be a license check, so that way it's not remote play because that would suck.
That's not a bad idea for them to tie that to a handheld just to make it work.
Yeah.
That's tough because it does feel like the handheld market is primed for either of them to move back to it or move into it for the first time, really with Microsoft. Let's count Windows Phone, but really go back to it, and I think that space is ready for both of them. So, But Ryan started to bring this up, and that is multiple storefronts on the Xbox. So Phil Spencer had this actually fairly lengthy interview with Polygon discussing a lot, and actually that's where some of these topics are coming from, because there were so many bits and pieces that Phil threw out there that they broke them up into multiple articles to go over it. However, Phil brought up the idea that the Xbox could actually be opened up to other storefronts outside of just your Xbox marketplace. And people, of course, immediately thought of Epic Game Store and Steam being the big one. That seems like a very, I don't want to say, I guess, weird kind of future for this. If one day you go on your Xbox, you turn it on, there's a Steam icon, there's a GOG, Little Games icon, there's a Epic Game Store icon, there's a Humble Store icon, and that's where you buy your games, and they all show up in your library. And that sounds weird for what we're used to with these closed boxes. And I don't know what the logistics are behind that. It sounds like a nightmare. But he seems open to the idea of bringing them in, and I think there's some interesting implications here. What do you think, Ryan?
It sounds like a different step in the direction of carving out their own path again. If they're talking about it for their own hardware, because it's not like Sony and Nintendo would ever want to do that. To OJ's point, like, this is the problem with digital on closed boxes, is that it's a single storefront, Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's a bad thing. Honestly, it would be great to have third-party stores on console. It's just not the business. So to me, this reads as Microsoft, again, approaching this from an angle of, let's shake up the industry a little bit, and let's try something that, we're in a position to be trying things like this, because obviously what we're doing now is not working. That's what it reads like to me, because if they had a successful console platform, I can't see they'd be, incentivized to do this.
I'm curious at the idea of Steam showing up. I don't know, MG, if you just turned on your Xbox and Steam was there, would you buy from the Xbox marketplace, or would you buy from Steam?
I wouldn't even use the console. At that point, we're talking... I wouldn't invest in a console like that. If that's the next generation of Xbox, I'm out. Like, I'm not interested. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about a PC. This is a PC we're talking about. If you've got multiple storefronts that you can select on, then what is the difference when I turn on my PC that I'm on right now and I click on those different storefront icons? Same thing. I think at that point we're talking about something completely different. And I think ultimately that's Xbox's, I think that's their vision, right? To have their shit available to you no matter where you are, whether you're on their hardware, whether you're on TV, whether you're in the cloud. I think that's what they're ultimately going for. I'd be very surprised personally if Gabe Newell would even entertain the idea of putting Steam on Xbox. I think he would shut that conversation down in about 2 seconds. And I think Phil is just spitballing and trying to basically make them seem like, well, we're the ones that we'll take any storefront, we'll take any game that you've got, because we're Xbox. We want to play games everywhere, because when we all play, everyone wins, or whatever it is. Like, ultimately, I think he's just kind of spitballing. He's got,
Which storefronts do you think they get? Because I think they get Google Play. I think that's about it.
I could see Epic Game Store actually wouldn't shock me if that would want to show up.
I'd be surprised.
Sony has a minority investment in Epic.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think so, John. What stores? I honestly, none of them. I don't think any of them would be willing to entertain jumping on Xbox. I think all of them are more than itch.io. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Because if they were able to get either of them, whether it's Steam or Epic Games, I mean, Sony's been moving a lot of their games to Steam, and we've seen things like Final Fantasy VII Remake on Epic. I don't really know what that would look like. Could you then buy God of War on Steam and have it on your Xbox library?
It would most likely be a limited selection, because it still has to be compatible.
It would have to be curated, right, Evan? That's what I figured.
There would be specific games that you could get.
Sony would blacklist their games, probably.
Yeah.
They can do that, and they have done that through like the NVIDIA Shield and the browser and cloud. So they absolutely would do that.
Yeah, that would be so weird. Like having all these different, like it's not a console. Like we're losing the identity, right? Because if you already got a PC, you just.
I mean, I'll say that if it happened, the benefit is still like the whole point of a console has always been like, here's a manufacturer stepping in that makes a very simple plug and play box with a very bare bones optimized UI that just takes any sort of headaches out of the like computer process. Yeah. And even though people love to immediately say PCs are so easy nowadays, Steam Big Pick, okay, absolute, but it will never ever be as simple as a console. The day that it is, though, then yes, then I would argue that then there's no point. But if Microsoft could make another box that's great for kids, great for people that just prefer the couch experience, and again, it's just a highly optimized, headache-free thing, then I still think there's some value there.
Okay. Just like the hardware itself being available. Okay.
That's what it always was. And that, and they can always, price per performance. You're never going to beat them, ever. That's the whole point. It's the economies of scale. They make a very tiny box that's not even close to the size of, a comparable PC. That's always been the benefit.
Now when you have like a Series S on the market that, let's be real, you see it on sale for $300 most times for like the 1 terabyte model. It's pretty easy to find. So that's like the price of a decent processor in a PC nowadays. Just that one part.
Yeah, PS5 and Series X are still really capable machines for what you're paying for.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, I think you're right, MG. I think Phil's just saying stuff here. It's just whatever, just throwing it out there. That's all. But there is kind of a divide, though, if you think about it, between their Windows gaming and their Xbox. They really want it to be all in one, like all one thing. It just still doesn't feel that way. And maybe this is him looking at it like what's on PC through Windows that's not on Xbox. Oh, well, that has Steam, that has GOG, that has Epic. This doesn't. To me, the big thing, one's paying for online, the other isn't. One has access to all kinds of other features that Windows provides. The other one doesn't. Still dealing with very basic DVR functionality even for your games. There's a lot more than just let's get Steam there. How about let's figure out how to subsidize the box with an Xbox Live Gold and open up all multiplayer to everyone. Let's do that. Let's boost the monthly active users. I think you're right, MG. Just part of the interview that kind of went off the rails a little bit. Just like Steve.
Phil has a lot to do, man. I kind of feel a little bad for him. Dude definitely has a lot to try to clean up, and it must be stressful. Honestly, it must be really stressful. So
he's been cleaning up for a while there.
Why isn't Sarah Bond being interviewed about these questions? Why is it Phil? She's the president of Xbox now.
She be talking too much, bro. She out here announcing stuff.
Yeah, we got hardware coming out.
She out here talking. No, I don't know. That's a good question.
She said we got hardware this holiday, right? Or is that the Series X all digital? Is that the exciting drop? I hope not. That's not. No. I hope that's not the case.
Wait, are you saying that this is the exciting new hardware drop?
I would hope not. That's what she said during the podcast. She was like, it's like hardware coming out.
If this is the hardware drop, they're going to get buried.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to get completely buried, and they clearly have not read the room. If this is what they think is going to be it, I'm hoping it's not, right. Like there's some talk about a handheld and stuff, so maybe that's
that would be fun. If they had like a let's try this, let's see what happens handheld and put it out this holiday, that could be fun. Just to have that as a surprise or something. Cannot be the Series X.
What about the controller though?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. What about the haptics controller? Maybe that's it.
Wasn't that due before the digital refresh, if I'm remembering the leaked image correctly?
We're expecting it in May.
Yeah.
Are you guys seriously saying that a controller update with haptics and gyro is a big fucking deal?
Just so we're clear, I'm not saying that, but what I will say is between an all digital Series X and like basically a DualSense, it would be that. So
hey, look. I've purchased games on PlayStation because of physical and because of the haptics. So if Xbox can get their own haptics, and I like the HD Rumble on Switch whenever they rarely use it, but when they do use it, it's cool. So I mean, this would be a big. This would be kind of not major, but it'd be interesting, right?
Here's why MVG's right. Okay, about this. Here's why. And I do Newswave every weekday. Do you know how many controllers from Xbox I've talked about in the last 3 months? Evan knows because he has.
I hate it.
I don't know why you do it, John.
They announce, and it happens. I'm not even kidding. Maybe once a week.
Xbox people love controllers. This is going to be huge.
Xbox, by all means, please announce a new controller, right? Give it all, make it the Simpsons like the Homer car. We don't care, right? But this is a Newswire article. This is nothing beyond that. Like if they got a new controller with haptics and gyro, Newswire. Like it's a Twitter drop.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we haven't seen a leak of that then. If it's due first.
Yeah, that should. You're right, actually, because we had the system get out there first.
Because it looks
maybe
very different.
Maybe the controller looks very similar to what the controller we already have, and it's like, is this the? I guess maybe. That's all I can think of, because that was a picture of a shell that was very obviously not the Series X we have, because it's missing the disk drive. So it's hard to say. I mean, I feel like when this new controller shows up, while they had a screenshot of it and it looked different, I kind of feel like the design, as we saw with the Brooklyn, that's changed to basically looking like a Series X. The controller probably is just going to look like, if it's like they're going to make it white, it'll probably just look like this. So that'd be my assumption.
I guess
maybe that's why it's not leaking out, because it looks the same.
Probably should if they're printing 10 billion colors of the existing one.
Dude,
doing weird things like putting pajamas on it and stuff like that.
What was the last one we talked about this week, Evan? It's like a whole other.
That was the marbling effect one. I thought that was part of the customization.
Nocturnal night shift, something. I don't know. It's something. It's they have a lot of controllers. That's all I know. So that's that can't be the new hardware. MG, you're right. It's got to be something else. I really hope it's something else. We'll see. We'll see. Let me go over to some of the super chats that have come in here. Oh, and then the Glasses gifted 1 membership. Hey, shout out to the Glasses 61.
Let's go.
Those got good early news waves.
Yeah. Zoob says Dragon's Dogma 2, like Breath of the Wild, Red Dead Redemption 2, Elden Ring is Keeley's front runner.
I mean, I was thinking about this just before we got on tonight about what the possible Game of the Year contenders could be. I mean, obviously we're still very early on the year. There's still a lot of games coming, but Dragon's Dogma could be in the conversation at this point.
We'll see what else comes out.
Yeah, I mean, right now it'd be like there's not a ton, but it would have to be like Infinite Wealth, probably Final Fantasy VII Rebirth,
yeah.
And Dragon's Dogma. Those would
Do you think they'll put up the Elden Ring DLC as Game of the Year?
I mean, it could. What was that Blood and Wine? That Blood and Wine got.
You don't think Indiana Jones is in the conversation, OJ? I think it might be.
No, I'm just talking about the games that have already came out this year.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we still have to see the other games, but just the games that have been released.
I think Indiana Jones definitely be up there for games that aren't out yet, but we still
depends. It depends, John. Depends if they demo it on government PCs to.
Oh no!
Or if
I mean,
it's
for me,
legit.
Metaphor Refantasy was going to be a game that is going to be right up there for Game of the Year for me. I already know just by
that's a good point. That one might be I don't want to say sleeper, but I feel like that is going to review very well.
Yeah, I think it's going to do very well.
Send the invitation, Microsoft. We'll send out MVG. He'll inspect the computer first, and then he'll check the game out.
Send Jersey out there.
Chad's saying Helldivers 2. You don't think Helldivers 2 has a
don't
chance?
they have a multiplayer game?
I think that's maybe multiplayer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Helldivers
Helldivers.
multiplayer game.
Oh, it's a
Helldivers
subcategory,
is
sure. But overall, you think it's got just no chance of even being in that conversation?
I feel like the Game of the Year mostly leans towards like single player story driven.
We've kind of seen that.
You're
Occasionally
right.
go
It
off
does.
of that, but not often.
There's only been one. Overwatch is the only multiplayer-driven game that has ever won the Keeley Awards. I don't know about before in the past. There might have been some other stuff, but yeah, Keeley Awards. The only one is Overwatch. And even that was kind of like Overwatch.
I'm sure it's got a clear landing for multiplayer.
Oh yeah, no, I right now Helldivers 2, yes, probably multiplayer game.
No.
Yeah.
Of the year at this time, yes. Power World technically wouldn't be nominated because it's not even it's still in early access.
Yeah.
This is PUBG.
Yeah,
I still can't believe that happened. That is sad and disgraceful for that show.
Yeah.
She was in there as a beta.
That's true.
When they put the music on, they just fired up stock music number 3 from the YouTube library. That was crazy.
Dave the Diver, best indie.
Oh gosh, okay. Z-Vet says, did Ryan buy 160,000 PS2s last week in honor of Jim?
I don't think I would honor Jim like that. I think the bobblehead is good enough for me.
I can't believe they put a bobblehead him on there.
Dude, I was blown
Can you
away.
get it 3D printed? Can you get it 3D printed?
Blown away. I can't believe they did that. Like, what the hell is this?
Did any of those cookies end up on eBay with his face on it?
Yeah, they gave the man cookies, a special PS5, a PS Stars collectible.
Just immortalized forever.
There you go.
How many people are using that PlayStation Stars app anyway?
Should
I feel like
free
other than-
money.
Like Ryan, you are obviously. I haven't really opened it up much at all.
I have no idea.
Well, you should just check it because you're accumulating points. I mean, so you might as well redeem it. You know.
Use my phone. I'll look.
You don't have to care about the collectibles, but like, I mean, use the points.
I will get the Jim Ryan bobblehead right now. Wait, what do you need for it again? You need to play Gran Turismo or all the games that apparently he likes or backed or remembers. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of games. Boot up Spider-Man.
Pretty Dude says, was kind of interested in checking out Stellar Blade, but I'm not going to be forced by Sony to play it, so I'll wait till it's on other platforms, I guess.
Pretty Dude. PSP.
The Stellar Blade will be on PC, probably like a year from now or something, I bet. I would be shocked if that happened. Although Sony got pretty involved here with Shift Up with their games, so who knows? Maybe I almost wonder if Sony is eyeing up Shift Up as like a potential acquisition or heavy investment.
They're looking to go public. They already filed for it, so I would imagine that's not happening.
Move for like a serious investment in them.
I mean, like if they did that, that wouldn't surprise me. I feel like Tencent or Sony would make a minority stake, assuming they go public.
I think if Stellar Blade does good, definitely we could probably see something like that.
Tijo says, almost done with the Persona 3 Reload Platinum and wanted to say hi. Stellar Blade looks really good on quality mode. I just wish we could have 4K, max settings, and 60 FPS on consoles. Well, we'll see how close the PS5 Pro gets to that. We'll see. Tijo says, when are we going to get to the point where quality mode equals 4K 60 max settings and performance equals 120, 1440p or something?
Next gen, maybe?
Yeah.
How much money do you want to spend on on the device for that type of performance?
People spending money on a 4090 like that, then Dragon's Dogma 2 comes around with reality very quickly. So
yeah, like for a console, it's not realistic for them to have the. Oh my gosh, we can max out it on console. If you want it to be what $400 to $500, are you ever going to be able to get that consistently throughout the whole generation? Like I don't know. That's going to be tough if the games keep on getting more and more complex, right?
yeah, especially native, you're gonna there's gonna be upscaling in there.
Yeah.
So. This is from Christian. Says the Stellar Blade devs knew what they were doing with cam angle, especially when you look above Eve from behind her. Thanks, Me World Christian. Deflated Badger says, Golden Sun for when? Asking a lot.
You're asking a lot. They don't even have the DS game is dead. The franchise has got a little bit of life back in it with the NSO release, but
okay. So Nintendo Prime ago, there's a direct next month or something, so who knows? Could be there.
Could roll in. Andy Ackerman says, sorry I'm late. I was finishing up Ryan's video from yesterday. Hope all is well, gents.
Oh, thank you.
Krishan Bomb says, on the point on demos, it's nice because I was unsure about Unicorn Overlord. When I tried the demo, I was sold.
Yep.
That was one of the better demos. There's some demos that come out that are like the same length as an entire game. So that was a pretty lengthy demo. I think my favorite demos is probably Dragon Quest XI. That demo was like 10 hours long.
I like the 16 demo for Final Fantasy. It really kind of sold me on the game to buy it. Because I was a little on the fence about it. I tried it, played the demo, I was like, yeah, I'm into this, so I picked it up.
Yeah, it had a good cliffhanger part for the demo too. So I was, yeah, you're right. That was a good one. Hold on. Okay. Cerny is best saying, just got the Coral Reactor in Rebirth. How's everyone enjoying the game? King's Blood for the win, and Yuffie plays the best.
Well, I've beaten the game, and I'm waiting for other people to beat the game so I can talk about the goddamn story with someone.
I'm in the last chapter. I'm not even gonna say the number of the chapter. I'm in the last chapter, and I'm working through it. So MVG and I probably have like 2 or 3 hours more of like in-game time before it's done.
I'm so
And
far
then
behind.
You can be doing it right now.
Yeah.
Off screen.
Then we can. Well, I gotta finish making the video for tomorrow too. But in-game time, 2 or 3 hours MVG, and then we'll make the video. We'll talk about what happened. Nate, by the way, he's checked out. He's not going to get there. I think Sean's given up. I think it's just you and me, MVG. It's just us.
Okay.
I'm going to get there.
We're going to get there.
For the video.
Win.
Yeah, for the video that we were going to do this week. Or something come out.
Oh, okay, yeah, I will not be right. No, I cannot. I can't.
I will tell you it's going to end up being about a 70-hour playthrough for me first time through. So that's where I am.
I'm 30 hours and I'm only in like the 3rd region, so it's gonna be.
Yeah, you got a ways to go.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot for me. Probably like 100 hours.
I think I need to submit my save file to Twin Galaxies because I like speed
Dude,
run.
apparently MVG went through that quick, dude. How many hours did it take?
I think it was like 38.5 or 39.
You gotta submit that. You may have accidentally set the world record. That is really fast. I think when you told me you didn't get like a certain chocobo in a region early on, I was like, oh man, this dude is just beating.
Oh, dude, most of the regions I didn't get the chocobo on. I got it on a couple of them, but not all of them.
This Zion says, don't forget to celebrate Resurrection Day tomorrow. Samuel Media Group says Microsoft is a party to the DOJ versus Apple case. They have to show that they're willing to feature other storefronts on Xbox. Otherwise, they're hypocrites. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's an interesting case when that continues along here. So we'll see what weird stuff they say and contradict themselves with. SB says, what's everyone's favorite indie game of all time?
Indie game. Ooh.
Yeah, what's the limit on that? Is that straight up pure independent development and
real indie games? Not like Minecraft.
Hades comes to mind. I don't know if it's my favorite of all time though. Like Hades.
That's tough.
That
I
is
think
really difficult.
a lot of the games I like are now they have a parent company.
Well, I guess you can say at the time. I mean, like
time, yeah. Hollow Knight for me is really good, but I also like SteamWorld Dig 2. I think that game is awesome, so I'd probably go with SteamWorld Dig 2 or Hollow Knight, one of those, probably.
Journey, Super Stardust HD.
Yeah.
Hades is up there.
Yeah, Hades is really good. Hades is, I'd probably say Hades is up there for me. Definitely one of those 3. Hades is good.
One game I played just very passively, so like an hour here, an hour there throughout the course of like a lot of like the lockdown period was actually Stardew Valley. So I might throw Stardew Valley in there.
I like both.
That's one I went back to, and I was like, I'm just gonna go through. It's a nice hour here or so.
I mean, technically, Evan, you're not wrong.
I know.
What did I do?
No.
You
said Baldur's Gate 3.
He's not wrong.
Oh, yeah. Technically, you're not wrong about that.
Did you guys hear? I'm pretty sure. I think you might have covered it on news. Did you see how much Stardew Valley sold? How much it sold?
It's like 20-some-odd million copies, right?
It's like 30 million. Didn't they say like something crazy?
Yeah, good for them.
It was written in Game Maker as well, which is free.
Wow, there you go. Everyone out there was trying
It's
to
free on the PC. If you want console versions, you've got to pay for a license, but it's free software.
Pure profit for that. Or almost pure profit for that.
Hey, good for them. Wow. Yeah, there might be aspiring developers out there who don't even know it yet. So, let's see. Sly Rice says, thoughts on why Microsoft doesn't just put the full Xbox storefront on PC so that your entire Xbox library is playable on console and PC natively. Tap into both markets and have both experiences. It's full Xbox. They still have them kind of split up and curated. PC, Game Pass versus Xbox, and I have to assume it's just, one, there's licensing. That's why Death Stranding was able to go to PC, Game Pass, but not Xbox. Because I'm sure there's a whole thing in there with Decima and Sony and keeping it off Xbox, really, but that and probably just compatibility between the two. Age of Empires for the longest time is just look at the controller. I think we had a thing, so I had to figure it out. But I get what you're saying.
that again, it still feels like it's a very two separate ecosystems, whereas Microsoft's trying to sell it as just one. So, Street Shadow says, I think any user who wants different storefronts in a console are likely already any on PC. Not sure you're converting or attracting. I was in
exactly.
Hold on. Okay. Spyro Jones says, just beat Crisis Core for the first time as I wanted to play it before I started Rebirth. Angio looks like the humans from the Ice Age movie. You're right. He kind of does. Now that I'm thinking about it, I had to read that because the first thing I saw was just beat Crisis Core. Okay, hold on. Let me double check. Whenever I read those comments where somebody says they just beat a game, I make sure there's not a spoiler in there. At this point, I swear Metroid Prime 4 is just a myth. Still don't think it will come out at the Switch 2's launch. At what point should we just not care anymore? Well, it's already been a long time, so what's another year?
You think it's going to beat Duke Nukem Forever?
It might.
How long was that? 12 years? For
yeah, I think it's got a ways to go on that. On Prime 4. And Prime 4 got first shown 2017, so technically this...
No, John.
E3 time.
It was not shown in any capacity. We saw a PNG file.
It was
We saw a PNG.
Duke Nukem Forever, 14 years, 44 days.
14 years.
Oh, not being Duke Nukem.
Wow.
Like this...
We'll see.
this summer will be 7 years since the PNG was shown to us. And then, 5 years ago, they announced that they rebooted the thing. Yeah, so you feel like it's due to be revealed again, but who knows? I'd like to think it's this holidays game for Nintendo, but there'll probably be another year with our luck.
You'd like to think that.
I know. I mean, we have Prime remastered out there, good reception of that. So let's get moving here. Let's get it done. Smash Brothers says, John, do you think that Nintendo could possibly announce new details of Metroid Prime 4 at this next Direct, or maybe next year during a Direct?
No.
Never. It's never coming.
I hope they drop it in a tweet and the game comes out the day later.
Just here it is. I hope it's cross-gen at this point. So let Retro take advantage of the new system and do all kinds of cool stuff with it. That's my hope. I did want to go over to Nintendo, as we had some news. This came out of Kotaku, and I also saw, I believe, Steven Totillo was sort of talking about it as well. But this takes place in Nintendo of America as they were restructuring their testing department. And reportedly over 100 contractor jobs have been, they say, restructured. The problem I'm seeing here as I'm going around looking for this is, because they did get an official response from Nintendo about this whole thing, there's no information as to how many jobs were eliminated versus how many were converted over. So apparently, of these 100 or so contractors, some were just taken in to be full-time employees, and others were just let go. But there's no, it's an 80-20 split, it's a 50-50 split. We don't really know how exactly that gets broken up. But it does kind of seem like, at least in their testing department, Nintendo would be moving away from a heavy reliance on contractor work, which is interesting because, to my understanding, there is, MG, you can speak to this pretty well, there's quite a reliance, especially around that area up in Washington there. Mm-hmm. A lot of contractor work. Microsoft does it a ton, but just in the games industry in general, a lot of contractor work. So I don't know, is there a benefit from them going, we're going to restructure, we're going to figure this out, we're going to go full-time employees and cut some of the other ones out for this?
I think it's very hard to make some decisions or conclusions on this information because look, I don't want to hand wave or anything like that. When people lose their jobs in the industry, it's always devastating. But we're talking about contractors here that have a end date, and usually that end date will get extended over time. So I'm not sure if the word being let go is the right term to use to start with. Maybe it was more a case of their contracts were not extended, or their contracts had expired. But with that all said, again, we don't really know why Nintendo has made this move. I think the reliance on QA, internal QA people, to say that they don't rely on, they don't need them as much anymore is, I'm not sure if that's the right thing to say. typically in QA, there's kind of these like cycles where there is a lot of QA focused on testing specific products internally, and then there's going to be periods when there's really not much going on because they're more in a R&D phase, and we don't really have any visibility as to which positions these contractors were at. I mean, were they working at studios? Do we know? Like, did Totillo's report mention like where these contractors were as far as within the company? Because we don't really know what role they had inside of Nintendo. But for me, it sounds like this was really more of a case of they weren't required anymore, right? And fortunately, you know, some contractors, for whatever reason, were offered full-time positions. So, look, this is something that is never a good thing. But this one is a little interesting to me because I don't really think we have all the information, you know, in front of us to kind of make decisions on what we think has happened here. Because, like I said, contract positions end all the time, and it's not necessarily the same thing as being let go. But you know, if there is more information on this, I'd definitely like to know about it, and hopefully there is more information that comes out about this, because I would like to know more about where these people were within the company. Were they basically sent out to studios to help studios with their QA, which is something that I could definitely see them being involved in. But again, it's more along the lines of, well, maybe those people weren't needed anymore because QA has kind of winded down. So unfortunately, you know, they ended up kind of losing or didn't get their contracts expired at that point.
You mentioned it winding down. Apparently, one of the pieces of information out of this, of course, they were talking to some of the people who were familiar with it, as they say, and then they did get a response from Nintendo. But some of the information from the people at Kotaku was able to reach out to and find said that there was a lull in testing for different games, and that there were no major first-party games from Nintendo in the pipeline for testing at that time. Mm-hmm. So it does sound like maybe an in-between period where, as you mentioned, contractors were, like, their contracts were coming up, and Nintendo was maybe reevaluating, do we extend this, because it says that the majority of people were converted to full-time, but then some weren't. So they mention here that it was to better integrate testing across its offices rather than a cost-cutting measure.
That sounds like marketing speak to me, honestly.
It does.
That's like when Sony says, "Oh, we only let go 8% of our workforce." It's still like 900 people, right?
Right.
Like you always choose the wording that sounds less kind of damaging, right? Because you think like a small percentage, it's not a big deal. It's only a small percentage, but it's still, you know, 900 people or whatever. So I don't know. That to me, that just sounds like marketing talk more than anything.
Sure. Yeah, it is interesting. There was that whole story that came out, was it a year or two ago, that discussed the red badge thing and being on different parts of the campus, basically, and benefits and that sort of thing. So I don't know if this is a response to that. They're like, well, we'll reevaluate this when the contractor stuff comes up. But at least going into next generation, they seem to be getting their testing in order in Nintendo of America and integrating it further, as the spokesperson so kindly put it for us. So we'll see. You're right, MG. We're still waiting to get some more information on it, if we do at all. We might not even hear anything else about it. So we will see. You know, the next topic, it's kind of a shame. I put this in here because I was thinking we might have Josie on the show with us tonight.
She's in the chat right now.
Is she?
Yeah.
Because the next topic is about Gen Z.
You definitely need Josie in here for that.
That's what I said. This is like, she'd be able to give us the all of us old people, like the actual scoop on this story, as the apparently. So the marketing or the multi-platform shift, according to Phil Spencer, is for a couple of different reasons. One has to do with just the overall growth in the console market, not necessarily living up to the budgets, or I guess the projected budget that they're going to have going forward, and them having to find just more people to sell to. And that seemed to spark some conversation online about just what he means by the growth of the industry or console market. And I feel like this came up, I think Sean Layden's talked about this before, like the idea that there is a set number of people who will buy a console every generation, and it's kind of just the same people, not the same exact people, but the same number roughly of people who come in, buy a box, go home when they're fine with it. But to extend beyond, people have said 200 to 250 million people seem to be where we're peaked at right now. To go beyond that number of people, we have to look to, as we're seeing, PC, phones, streaming. There has to be a way to get to people who don't want to either buy a system or you have to use a controller even. So that's a big one he came up with there, at least a concern he posted. But I don't know, do you guys buy the idea that the console market is like stuck, it's stagnant, it's not growing?
Sean is correct. He's 100% correct. And there is a ceiling. There is a ceiling to the console market. He's exactly right. It's always this number of, between 150 to 250 million. There's like I don't want to say finite, but there just is historically over like 20-something, 30-something years. And these companies are only making more money because it's a higher average spend per customer. That's the only way they make more money. Like the PS4 and PS5 cycle, Sony's revenue is just ridiculously higher than PlayStation 2, but PS2 sold 155, apparently 160 million, and they make way more money because of the advent of PSN, PlayStation Plus, selling more accessories on average, selling a pro model and
microtransaction games.
Exactly, DLC. And it's not a new problem. They've always been trying to sort of find new ways to make money. Like the PS2 GameCube generation had all these wacky accessories that were, expensive, and they were trying to do online play. Microsoft doing Xbox Live, and I mean they've always been motivated to try and make more money. So it's not a new problem. What I will say is that this is a problem that hurts Microsoft more than Sony and Nintendo because they can't get a bigger slice of the console pie. But even then, Sony is also like, well, we got to find new ways to make money because there's a growth problem. So that's why they're entering PC. That's why they're doing mobile stuff. So, Phil's not wrong. Sean's not wrong. It is something that's just been the case for a very long time now.
Yeah, you're right about Microsoft. They are kind of like they're even to a degree sort of losing a piece of their pie when it comes to the number of consoles they're selling, because the Series X does appear to be tracking behind the Xbox One, even if it's just like slightly. It's not well above it necessarily. Even the PS5 technically compared to the PS4 doesn't feel like it's like significantly ahead or anything. It seems to be like almost right there with the PS4. And so
it caught up and then it fell behind again, but it's like close enough. I mean,
it's like a couple of percentage points.
Yeah, topped off at 118 something million. If PS5 falls around that spectrum again, we're just in this. It's the same thing. It's every generation is like the same number of people that are buying and playing.
Right, and at that point, if it's the same number, you got to keep getting more money from those same people. So I figure at that point the PS6 games are $80 kind of thing. PlayStation Network might be an extra 10% more, 20% more or something, and that's. You're right. It's tough when the market for that isn't growing. You have to do something weird, step out of the box like Nintendo did with their Switch. You got to think a bit differently. And I guess for Microsoft, that's let's go multi-platform. Let's start moving stuff to other systems and see how it works for us, just to get more revenue. Evans, have you ever looked at this and thought about that as somebody making games like the market, the number of people buying these consoles isn't necessarily going up?
I haven't really given it too much thought. It actually is interesting to hear those thoughts from Ryan about it. Like, I've always felt that, game consoles has always been in a kind of smaller space that doesn't really grow or doesn't really shrink. So, I mean, as far as, making games, like, it's not really something that I think about, that, we're trying to kind of get this out to a bigger audience of people. But in many ways, I guess we are as well, right? Because, the nature of what I do is we make old retro games for people that have nostalgia for them, that may remember playing video games in the 90s and in the early 2000s and want to revisit those because, we have those products available. But I don't know, I think it's going to be interesting to see what what these moves look like. Like if these moves that Xbox are making to try to get more people playing Xbox, whether it bears fruit for them. Honestly, I'm kind of sitting on the fence about this. I'm not really sure. They're definitely making their move, and I think they need to, and I think they probably have the data that suggests that they can succeed. Nothing is guaranteed here. This could be something that absolutely doesn't really work out for them, but I'm hopeful that it does, because we definitely need more people invested in video games and buying consoles, and hopefully, you know, these hardware makers can figure that out. I think, you know, they've all got their ideas. We'll see what it all looks like when the dust settles, I guess.
Well, that would bring up the new generation coming in to gaming, which is something we've kind of discussed here and there, the idea that the other generation coming in is going to view a lot of this stuff differently than we do. But coming up in the Super Nintendo, that PS1, original Nintendo, kind of in that era where it was box, and then you buy an exclusive game for it, or just the way you play games at that time. And now things, obviously, we see with Microsoft opening up a bit more. And he did cite Gen Z research specifically. He said, this is Phil Spencer, this notion that Xbox can only be this one device that plugs into a television isn't something we see in the Gen Z research, because nothing else is like that for them. Some of them will have an iPhone, some will have an Android, but all the games and everything is the same. I can still get to TikTok on both of them, at least for now. All of their stuff is available wherever they want. So for Xbox, our brand pivot, as we attract and maintain relevance with a younger audience, is Xbox is a place where I can find the great games I want to. So, essentially,